Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of Best Boys, a podcast about movies. My name is Jurassic Mark. I'll be your host, and with me is my very special guest, Chris. Tell him where you're from, where you're at, what you do.
All right, I am Chris Costi to the internet. I animate and draw and do the art things, and occasionally talk about movies with my good buddy Mark.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, Jars of Jams could not be with us, but he is here in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
His ghost is floating right over there,
Yep.
like the end of Empire or Return of the Jedi, whichever one that was.
Yeah, we have pre-beard
But,
him, like the younger version.
Yeah, they photoshopped him in.
Mhm.
They put his eyebrows back on. So, I think we could kick things off this time because wouldn't you know it, literally, like if I'm not mistaken, I think the day that the last episode went on, we got a brand new trailer for Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Yes.
Ralph, isn't this great? We are going to the internet!
Super excited. Just one minor thing. What is the internet?
It was like the day after you uploaded it or something, and it was like technically February,
literally.
and I was like, I'm still fucking putting this in there. I don't care.
Yeah, literally like the day after we recorded it, because I thought like, oh, okay, we'll do it like the day before the month ends, and that'll get all the trailers to the month. Nope.
Nope.
There's still Wreck-It Ralph. It's Wreck-It Ralph, but I don't know if it's the Wreck-It Ralph I necessarily wanted to see. Chris, what did you think about this? Ralph Breaks the Internet.
I think it looks like a sequel.
Right? Like, it looks like such a sequel.
If I've learned anything,
Not
it's
what
that the sequels that I don't think are going to be good for animated movies tend to actually be good. So I'm not trusting myself once again on this. I think I'll go in with low expectations and I'll have a fun time when I come out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know, because like whenever I look at it, all I see is like, oh, it's the Emoji Movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's Disney's Emoji Movie, except it's going to have like Star Wars, Marvel, Princess cameos in it, and other than that, it's going to be the same exact thing as the Emoji Movie. And it's like, I know that's simplifying it, because I think is Rich Moore still doing this one?
I honestly don't remember. I do think that it alleviates a kind of creeping, horrific thought of finality for the characters from the first movie, of just like, oh yeah, they kind of get like reset if the arcade machines ever get unplugged, and it's, you know, an arcade in 2018.
Yeah.
How much is their shelf life gonna last? So now at least they have an out so that the characters don't die. I guess at least horrific digital death.
Now they've got more of a timely setting where they go to things like BuzzFeed. It'll totally work out. But yeah, it is still directed by Rich Moore.
Okay.
So, you know, that's a ringing endorsement, I guess. You know, Rich Moore directed some really, really excellent episodes of The Simpsons. Was it him and Conan O'Brien that did the monorail episode, I think?
You would know better than me, buddy.
I probably should. But yeah, I feel like that specific episode is like not to go on a Simpsons tangent, and yes, it is. It was directed by Rich Moore and written by Conan
Go
O'Brien.
on a Simpsons tangent, okay? This is your fucking show.
You know, if I could go on a Simpsons tangent for a second, actually, I've been kicking around an idea to make a sub blog where each week, like my regular blog, each week I watch which incidentally can be found at whiteguywithnetflix.blogspot.com. But I've been kicking around an idea where on my regular blog I watch a movie and do a little write up of it each week. I've been kicking around the idea of doing a sub blog where I watch an episode of The Simpsons, starting with like season 1, episode 1, each week. And I mean, like, it would be a long-term project. It would take literal years to do a Simpsons episode every week until I get through every Simpsons episode. Maybe it'll be canceled before I even finish it. But I always thought that would be a really fun project. And who knows? Maybe I'll do that this summer if I have some free time.
Oh God, that is an undertaking.
That would right? It would be a labor of love, and then a labor of let's get this over with.
A labor,
just
of
a labor, I guess.
Yeah,
a labor of necessity, of completionism. We need to see this thing through to the end.
It'll go from a labor of love to just a love of labor.
Oh God, yeah, no. But despite the show's, shall we say, dismal state in this day, Marge versus the Monorail, I feel like, I feel like Marge versus the Monorail is like, it's like a golden ticket. Like if you worked on that episode, you can basically write your own check anywhere. Like that, I remember that was the thing with the first Wreck-It Ralph. It was, oh, okay, so Disney's making a movie about like video game characters. That's kind of cool. And it's like, yeah, but it's written by the Monorail guy. And it's like, okay, so now we're into this. Now we're in. And I don't know. It's a petty thing because I'm sure this will turn out okay. You know, because like I said, it's Rich Moore, it's Wreck-It Ralph. I love the first one, but I still feel like
it's still part of the screenplay too.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah, like all the elements are there for it to be good, but and I feel bad feeling hesitant for it because like in the same way that the first Wreck-It Ralph was more about candy than it was about video games, I feel like this one is going to be like, oh, it's about like social media jokes instead of video games, and it's like, I think there's something to be gained from just making one where it's just video games, just video game references. Because they put so much love into all that stuff in the first one. So I feel like they could totally make a whole movie.
Maybe they'll finally break the mold of like, you can have your first movie be the best one, or the second movie be the best one, but you will never have the third movie be the best one.
And then we'll get the Disney XD animated series. It'll be a Monkey's Paw Wish, where now it's like a 2D Flash series on Disney XD. It's taking Star Wars as time slot, and now it's the Adventures of Wreck-It Ralph with a bunch of unlicensed video game characters, and it all takes place in a game. And it's like, well, guess I'll die.
I mean,
but
that's not the worst monkey's paw I can think of. I could live with that happening.
I could live, just not well.
I don't have to watch
and speaking
it. I don't
of
have a child or babysit anymore, and thus would not need to watch it if I didn't want to.
That's a very fair point.
It's not like it's a movie
actually.
that we physically have to drag ourselves to go watch because we're doing this now.
I need it. I need it or I'll die. The chip in my brain will blow up. I'm pushing it so far by not seeing Ready Player One this weekend.
Are you not?
The fucking I'm
okay.
Not. I don't. I
mean,
to.
Nobody. Well, not nobody.
If let's talk. Yeah, fuck it. Let's talk about Ready Player One because that comes out this weekend. The movie that
neither of us have seen. An unbiased review from Mark and Chris.
No, just it's interesting though because I don't know when this is going to go up. Probably Easter. In which case, Happy Easter. If not, Happy Passover or whatever. I'm not sure if that's before or after Easter, but whatever.
During, around.
But yeah. April
like
Fools.
Encompassing. I mean,
there. We covered all the bases. We got all the religions and creeds. We mentioned Easter. We mentioned Passover. We mentioned April Fools. That's every religion. We got this.
Happy April showers, everybody.
But yeah, like Ready Player One, I'm actually kind of surprised because it's been getting pretty decent reviews, but I'm also really skeptical because all the reviews have been like, the cameos are really fun. And I'm like, things that make you go, and it's like, I don't know if that's what you should be focusing on, because I've been seeing like solid like 7s.
The most glowing thing that I saw was people saying things like, I really like the changes they made from the book. And the more of that there is, the happier I think I would be watching it.
Yeah, for like full disclosure, I haven't seen the book, so maybe it's a little unfair of me to throw shade at it.
Great.
What I have seen has been bad, like not even a little good, like awful. Like if the book was a person, I'd want to really punch it in the face and feel nothing afterwards.
It's just, God, there are a lot of things that I think people enjoy when they're in like that middle school, high school era, just becoming an adult, like that area. And some of those things you can go back to in like your 20s or your 30s, and you can look at it and be like, I fucking loved that, and it's still great. And other things you pretend you never touched. Like you go back and you look at it and you're like, oh God. And you just file it away as a thing that you definitely were never into. And that is one of those things for me.
You get really, really drunk and you laugh yourself silly while watching old YouTube poops. That's a positive thing. But then you read Rage comics and look at I Can Has Cheeseburger and you want to die.
For me, that is both of those things, and also Ready Player One.
Oh man, no, there's some good YouTube poops out there. There's some really good ones. Have you seen Get in My Car?
I refuse to dip my toe back into that well.
Oh, you need to. You can't dip your toe. You got to just jump in, so it could shock your whole system and get you acclimated quickly.
Jesus Christ, I can't put myself back in that headspace anymore.
There's some good ones, but getting back to Disney and staying with the trend of dismal, dour.
Full disclosure, James is like
nasty.
most of our impulse control in keeping us on track, I think.
He really is. I feel like this. We thought like, oh, 2 people. This is going to be shorter.
Yeah, this is going to be the road less traveled, because we are 2 people known for going off on tangents that lead nowhere.
This is going to be the fuck it cast, where we say fuck it. We start talking about literally what the shit ever. Take a drink every time I make like I'm gonna segue back on track. And then the Segue veers off a fucking cliff.
Does that include this description of the Segue, which itself is meandering away from us getting back to the films?
Yeah, why fucking not? We've burnt like a fucking like a good minute or 2 just talking about segues.
Hey, segues are weird. What was that trailer you were talking about?
Yeah, you know what else is weird? The fucking tone in the trailer for Mary Poppins Returns. Also, the fact that there's a Mary Poppins Returns.
I'm gonna meander a bit. So we're talking about Mary Poppins Returns. We're also talking about Christopher Robin. Both of them seem to take place at the same time. Is this a shared universe or not?
Oh my fuck! See, all right, I'm gonna go off on.
Tell
a
me it would
tangent.
Never, because you can't.
I'm gonna talk about Disney for a second, because the thing with Disney is I love Disney. I love Disney a whole lot. You know, it's cheesy and it's corny, but I like the shit that Disney puts out. I like the MCU. I've liked like a collective half of what they've done with Star Wars. I fucking adore the theme parks. Those shits are modern marvels of engineering and showmanship. And if anybody turns their nose up at it, they can't appreciate the finer things in life. But Disney is going to be the death of film as an art form.
Not to oversell.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you said, Mary Poppins and Winnie the Pooh in the same universe, I felt a little like, oh. And that made me disgusted in myself. I wanted to cut it out with a Bowie knife, whatever that part was. And that's what Disney's done to us. They've conditioned us with all this shared universe shit.
Okay, but like,
is there Is someone about to start flatlining at your place?
I don't know. I don't know who has a
Have-
fucking like
There it is.
old timey
What is
clown
that?
horn that they're just rhythmically hitting.
It's your roommates. They're just sitting there giggling to
They're
themselves,
gone.
honking a clown
They're
horn.
not here. Who the fuck are you?
Oh, that's a fucking SCP.
No, it's very no. That I have neighbors who I do not know that are in the other apartment complex next to our apartment complex, and my window faces them. And sometimes, at random points in the afternoon, they'll just start shouting like loud, extended, wordless just for no reason.
Just like
Yeah, and it like
really.
there's not really there's a little bit of anger in it, but it's mostly fear, and I don't know why it happens. But there's normally laughing afterwards, and it's like extended long enough that it's obviously fake, or this person is seeing like something that is continually a thing rather than just like a shock. I don't know what it is, but it's the weirdest thing, and I've just conditioned myself to accept it at this point. Anyway, that was a bit of a meander.
It's a lot.
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins. Yeah, Mary
Oh, Christ.
Poppins. Yeah. Looking at this shit, first of all, this fucking trailer, I know everybody's said it, but it looks like it. It looks exactly like the trailer for it. It's gray and it's dreary and it's rainy and there's like spooky music and it's making you think Mary Poppins is going to fly out of the cloud, beat your ass. Kids would be scared of Mary Poppins. And literally the only thing that looks good in this trailer is Lin-Manuel shows up for a second, and I'm like, I know him. I
Yeah.
like the Hamilton polka.
I'm down for
And,
Lin-Manuel in there. I'm good with it.
Yeah. Lin-Manuel deserves to be like the new like Dick Van Dyke type, where like if you need like an earnest kind of live action movie musical, you get him, and you'll get
Yeah,
a good
I'd also
time
be
out of it.
perfectly happy
And then
if he
everything else
lived
about
like
it.
to 101 or however old Dick Van Dyke is at this point. Just infinite forever.
He
Just
fucking-
keep going, and you're still the spryest one in your group. I'm down for that for him.
Do you remember when we were talking about, we were at the Christmas get together and we were talking about the canon of Night at
Yes.
the Museum, and we speculated that Dick Van Dyke used the powers of Rami Malek's magic tablet to
Okay,
become
don't even
eternally
get me
young.
started on the background lore of Night at the Museum. I almost said Night in the Woods.
I'm gonna get you started. I'm
Oh
pulling
no!
the
If
cord
I
once
like
more.
that has to be like a separate episode where I bring in my guest expert Mary Rooney on here to talk about it. Like, it's a lot.
Rooney.
Yes, I did.
You say
No relation to Mickey Rooney, unfortunately.
no relation to Mickey Rooney, unsung star of Night at the
And
Museum.
Night at the
1.
Museum 3, actually.
Oh shit! I have not seen 3. That's going to be its own podcast.
3 is something.
We're
Yeah,
gonna get
no,
some people
I'll
together
bring her
who are-
on here. She'll enjoy
We're going
that.
to marathon. We're going to get some people. We're going to get some drinks. We're going to marathon, maybe
Mhm.
live stream even all 3 Night at the Museums. That'll be a time. But you know what? I think this is very telling, because this is like the 5th tangent we've gone off of while trying to talk about Mary fucking Poppins, and I think that's indicative of the whole problem here. Who the fuck wanted a Mary Poppins sequel? Who was wanting for
Least
another
of all,
chapter?
the woman who wrote Mary Poppins.
Yeah. Disney just keeps fucking
this is round
I would be
2 of
surprised
hey,
if they
we
just,
do what
like-
we want with your property, lady.
They mail her grandchildren a vacuum sealed box every weekend, and when they open it up, it's just 5 copies of the OG Mary Poppins book just smeared with feces.
Jesus Christ! I mean,
With a
it's
little
bad enough
Mickey
that
Mouse
they made
toy.
like a recursive history movie where it just like completely changed her opinion on what she thought of the film.
We need to make someone who can sell the idea that Walt Disney wasn't like a well-meaning but sexless businessman. Get Tom Hanks on it. And now it's like, oh, Tom Hanks was pretty good.
I mean, it
Tom
was a
Hanks is
fun
pretty
movie.
good.
It just wasn't the truth.
Saving Cody Banks.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, we in similar vein to Mary Poppins, we also got Christopher Robin, which of the two, this one, it looks like this one fucking pulled a Shao Kahn and absorbed all the whimsy out of the first one. Because it was so, the little bit at the end where fucking live action raggedy ass Pooh Bear shows up and he's voiced by, I feel bad because I'm forgetting his name. I feel like I'm going to do this at least once every episode.
Oh yeah, that's going to be this whole thing. I forgot Oscar Isaac's name in the lead up to recording this. Like, we're not going to remember anybody here.
Jim Cummings.
Jim Cummings. Yeah, good name.
And now I have who voiced Darkwing Duck in my Google search history. But yeah, no, Jim Cummings as Winnie the Pooh feels very, very sweet. And who doesn't like Ewan McGregor? And it was cute enough to the point where I almost forgot that it's literally like that early 2000 like Christopher Robin is a busy businessman who doesn't have time for his kids. Like
Please
it's
don't
literally
do the Rob Schneider narrator voice.
It's literally Hook. It's literally just Hook, but with Winnie the Pooh.
I am totally fine with that. I love the charming cheesiness of Hook.
It's such a hack idea, but it's like, all right, I guess it's not offensively hack.
Hack ideas with heart are the best movies.
Yeah, like
things
I guess
with an intentionally bad premise that people just pour their soul into make for the most fun time.
Like, I remember one of the weird things about this movie is the voice cast.
Really?
I thought the voice cast was kind of weird, and it really kind of annoys me because it does this thing that a lot of movies do, and of all the places to do this, I wouldn't expect Disney to do this. But they did the thing where for the cartoon characters, they got like actual actors instead of voice actors.
Oh. Except for Jim Cummings.
Like they got Jim Cummings, because literally no other human can do a good Winnie the Pooh. Like, if Winnie the Pooh did not sound like Winnie the Pooh, there'd be riots in the streets. But then we got fucking Chris O'Dowd of Cloverfield Paradox fame.
Oh, wait, okay, I already know.
Who do you think Chris O'Dowd is playing? Here, we'll play the guessing game. Who do you think that Chris O'Dowd from the IT crowd is going to be playing in Christopher Robin? Which of Winnie the Pooh's friends?
Okay, the guy known almost entirely for comedy is going to play anyone except Tigger.
Yeah, no, good choice, actually. Yeah, he's going to be playing Tigger.
Who else we got?
Okay, here's another obvious one. Brad Garrett, the fucking...
Oh, fucking Eeyore, come on!
Yeah, which I gotta say, step down from having him voiced by fucking Optimus Prime in the last Winnie the Pooh movie.
Yeah!
Right, who would you say that Toby Jones, that weird-looking little guy that's in, like, everything, is going to be playing?
I honestly don't know who Toby Jones is.
I feel bad because he's probably a cool guy, and I feel bad saying that he's weird looking. But he was the guy in. Have you seen the Captain America movies?
Some of them.
Have you seen the first one?
No, that is the only one I have not seen.
Okay,
wait,
you know what?
Because I forgot that Civil War is not an Avengers movie. Because it is one.
It pretty much is. You know Arnim Zola. You know the guy that turns himself into a computer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, no, I remember the face on the computer. Okay.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know. Either rabbit or owl.
Fucking owl.
Okay.
God, maybe.
Okay.
Wow, maybe these fucking casting is pretty decent. We got Nick Mohammed, who I have not ever heard of, actually.
I have also not, but I'm pretty bad with names.
I'm looking through this, and apparently it's a bunch of. He's been in a bunch of BBC stuff. He's going to be Piglet, so it's like okay.
Okay, I would not have gotten that one.
This one I'm actually kind of okay with. Who would you say Peter Capaldi?
Oh, come on, Rabbit.
Yes, there you go.
I hope
That's good casting.
that he uses his original voice so that people can dub over clips of this movie with his previous roles, because that would be a trip.
Yes. He fucking looks like Rabbit. He looks like a big rabbit.
Jesus Christ.
He just looks pissed off and done with the world. No, you need to what was the movie that he's in that people always post clips of where he's like a government agent?
Oh, yeah, no, that was the, like, not quite the movie of his show that I watched in high school and definitely remember the name of. Fucking...
It's
Let me obviously click away to his thing to talk about what it was.
I can't the stuff so much cotton in your mouth that'll stick out your ass like a wee Playboy bunny. That one.
Yes, that show. Which is...
But yeah, you gotta drag those over, and then we got.
I'm just gonna shout it while you're doing that, so keep going.
A lot of Doctor Who people in this actually, but
The Thick of It. That was the name of that fucking show. I don't remember the name of the movie because it was something different, but The Thick of It is the name of the show.
But yeah, Christopher Robin, Mary Poppins Returns. Disney needs money. Of the two, Christopher Robin looks infinitely better.
In the Loop. That was the name of the
But
movie.
I guess we'll see. In the Loop, yes.
Yeah.
The
It's a good one.
kiss my second balls, you fat fuck. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I'd like to move us right along.
do.
Let's step off of Disney for a little bit. Because we got a trailer, and the second this came out, all I could think was, I can't wait to discuss this with Chris on the podcast.
I'm probably going to
Have you watched the
an opinion that you don't expect.
Really?
Go for it.
Because now I'm trying to think of what I would expect. But have you seen the trailer for Illumination's The Grinch?
I have.
Yes. What did you think of this as the resident animation guy?
I'm going to say, what do you think I think of this beforehand?
Ooh, I'm gonna.
Or just what do you think?
I'm gonna guess. Actually, those are pretty much two in the same. I'm gonna say movie looks like shit, but it doesn't look like shit. The animation is very nice. Textures are pretty nice. Every other part of it looks real bad.
Okay.
But what did you think?
I have a different opinion for very specific reasons. One.
Oh, lay it on me.
One is that I have a blind spot to this, specifically due to a familial reason. My mom, if you've ever met her during any sort of winter time, you should know, is obsessed with the Grinch in all of his forms. The original, the book, the original cartoon, the Jim Carrey version. She loves all of it.
Oh my God.
She is so about every single point of it. So the Grinch has dominated my life in any form that he can take since I was a child. So I do not care that there is a new version of it coming out. I don't think that sullies anything, because I know that...
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because I know that my mom is super excited for it. And also, as someone who went to an animation school when the Lorax first came out, I watched it.
Oof.
And I didn't hate it. I had a fun time. I wasn't going to put it in, like... It wasn't great. It was enjoyable in my experience. And I think that's exactly what this is going to be, because I know that Illumination, despite looking at every single one of their trailers and going, oh God, always makes something that I actually enjoy watching and have a good time with.
Really?
Yeah. And that's the same thing with DreamWorks. Like, I don't know who does their marketing teams, but they attempt to shoot for kids and absolutely make it look unwatchable for anyone who's an adult. And then all of their movies turn out to be not half bad and interesting.
Huh. Yeah, not to throw you under the bus, but you liked Sing as well, didn't you?
I did. But again, I would by no stretch call that an original, creative, or like anything other than enjoyable time.
I mean, that's fair, I guess, for something like Sing. It's a collection of cute animated music videos.
Yeah.
With some decent covers.
It had a couple jokes in there that I genuinely enjoyed. There's one thing in the bridge, like right after the second act climax, where like it's just this slow moving shot of like the small koala man using his entire body to dry off a car to raise money, and it's set to like this nice soft ballerina music, and it is the most like absurd non sequitur moment in this movie, and I genuinely found it funny, and was not expecting to.
But yeah, Grinch. See, I've got a theory with the Grinch, and it's a theory why literally the only Grinch movie that really works is the OG Boris Karloff, Thurl Ravenscroft one, done by was that Hanna-Barbera?
I honestly don't remember who made that.
I'm pretty sure that was Hanna-Barbera. Let me double check that actually.
I got it. Keep going with your point.
But yeah, no. See, my theory rather, and I touched on this back when I reviewed the Jim Carrey Grinch for the blog. The problem with these Grinch movies is they make the Grinch the protagonist, and in the original book, he was not a protagonist. He was not relatable or sympathetic in any way. He was a prick who stole Christmas, but he's the one that we spent the most time with, and that works fine for a book. And it works fine for a half-hour, TV special. But when you make it a whole movie, they try and make the Grinch like cool. Like they try to make the Grinch like he's the relatable protagonist. And the second you do that, you kind of step on the point. Because if we relate to the Grinch, then there's not really a lesson. Like if the Grinch is likable and the Who's are unlikable, then you've kind of missed the point.
See,
which I guess like. It's tricky because I do appreciate the Jim Carrey one for what it tried to do and how it went.
Like, I genuinely enjoy the Jim Carrey one. I think it's hilarious.
I kind of do too, but like for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Like I don't watch the Jim Carrey one, and like when he saves the day at the end, I'm like, yeah, Grinch. Instead, I'm like, did the Grinch just say the powder's bitchin'? Like,
I mean, he did
shit like that. He did. The sun is shining and the powder's bitchin' is a line in a Dr. Seuss movie. Screamed in a James Cagney impression under like 20 pounds of amazing prosthetic makeup.
Oh, that movie is still so pretty in the worst, most nightmarish Floop is a madman way.
Yeah, no, oh my god, it is Floopism. It's Floop is a madman.
Yeah, it really is.
It's exactly Floop's Foogly. Everyone looks like Floop's Fooglies, but like that's the thing that I kind of like about it is like it's non-traditional. And I think that's cool that they did that, where they're like, okay, we could just retell the book and have it be a good, fun Christmas story, but instead let's make something kind of weird and kind of gross and kind of unpleasant to fit into like the overarching like anti-consumer, commercialism plot.
Yeah. Also, I think a lot of the reason that the perception of the Grinch has changed is not so much that they don't make him the villain anymore, but they recognized that people did relate to the original one.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like when you look at the original book and even the original Boris Karloff special, the Grinch isn't like a quirky, so relatable curmudgeon. He's like an actual asshole. Like he's got jacked up teeth and he's mean to his dog. And like he steals from children and stuff like that. And he does it because he's annoyed about the noise, which is a little relatable. Yeah. But it's an inordinate retaliation, as they would say.
Yeah.
And then with these new ones, it's like, okay, well, the Jim Carrey one, they turn the Who's into like these consumerist fucks who like don't care about anything, and like they're all like gross and horny, and they love plastic and buying things, and like the Grinch totally has the moral high ground. So then when he does his big turnaround, it doesn't really mean anything because he's always had the moral high ground.
Yes, but I also think they were trying to make a point about like the consumerist point of like the early 2000s, late 90s, just the general feeling of consumerism at that point. And also, to answer your question from before, it was not actually that. It was MGM Animation in like in tandem with the Cat in the Hat Productions. Produced by Dr. Seuss himself, as well as Chuck Jones, who directed it.
That's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of. I knew that some like big classic animator was.
Also, we can have a Grinch episode too,
yeah,
but let's move back to the trailers because it's been half an hour and we're not even at the movies yet.
That's right. We really could have a whole Grinch episode, but yeah, it's Illumination, so I don't exactly have high hopes for this one.
I feel the opposite.
We also got a new trailer. Grinch episode, but we also got a new a couple new trailers because they're ramping that shit up for Infinity War, but that's also coming out next month, so I think we'll talk about that at the very end. Got another trailer for Deadpool 2.
Yeah,
looks
still
good.
Looking great.
Looks good. That's it.
Solid.
First one was fun. This one looks cool. Which, speaking of Deadpool, actually, I showed you that Titmouse.
Yeah, and it looked
reel
great. And I'm still mad if we can talk about the animated series thing a little bit.
Yeah, let's for anyone who doesn't know, basically FXX, I think it was specifically FXX, had ordered a Deadpool animated series and it was going to be done by Donald Glover, and they just recently canceled it. So now all this stuff is coming out. I remember Donald Glover made like a statement on Twitter where he's like, just so you know, they're saying that I dropped out because I was too busy. I'm not. Deadpool was my priority, and they just killed it. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is getting ugly. And then, but basically the idea, and I'm paraphrasing from Pan Pizza here, but basically FXX had the Deadpool license, and they went to like 3 animation houses, and they were like, all right, we're making Deadpool. Show us what you got. Make a little demo reel and send it our way, and we'll give the job to whomever we like the most. And I forget what the third one was, but the other 2 were Titmouse, who animates pretty much everything on Adult Swim. Like Black Dynamite, I think they do Mike Tyson Mysteries. Like basically, if it's on Adult Swim, Titmouse did it, or at least there's a good chance Titmouse did it. And the other studio was, I can't remember which one, but the studio that did Archer. And the idea was it was given to the studio that did Archer, which is a weird fucking choice. I could see like the writers of Archer doing good with Deadpool, but in a show where you would expect a lot of action,
it's predominantly not.
Action is not necessarily Archer's strong suit. It's very, it's predominantly conversation based comedy, whereas Deadpool has a lot more animation to it. It's a lot more motion involved in the character.
Also, the company is called Floyd County, by the way.
Okay, yeah, Floyd County. Yeah. And that's the thing. No disrespect to them, but honestly, that was kind of the reason why I'm not exactly shedding any tears that this thing got canceled, because I was kind of like, from the start. But, so Titmouse ended up releasing, or I don't know if they officially released it or if Pan Pizza just got his hands on it. But... it's on YouTube right now. Go look that shit up. It is a demo reel of Deadpool using audio from the first movie, where he's basically, and it's unfinished animation. There's some animatic bits in there, but you could still get an idea of like the sense of motion and everything they were going for.
There's a lot of good visual jokes in there.
A lot of really good visual jokes. Lots of multi-genre stuff too. Like they take the audio from the part where he's shooting the guys on the freeway, which I know that's like a third of Deadpool, but specifically the whole like, I only brought 12 bullets, so you're gonna have to share, like that whole bit before Colossus shows up. And they put in the bit where like he sack taps the guy, and like when he does it, it hard cuts to like live action footage of 2 eggs exploding for like a split second. It's super slick.
It's really good.
It's really, really solid.
And then when he gets the backhand from the metal arm and he like flattens into like a flat Stanley thing and then slowly picks himself up, it was just so fun, and like I genuinely kind of
lively.
Whimsical feels like the wrong word, but it was having fun with it, which is exactly what you want for Deadpool.
It reminded me a lot of like the OG Teen Titans. How that show had like the sort of pseudo anime influence and wasn't afraid to get weird and wacky with the animation for like emphasis. Like that's what this demo reel looked like, and it's a damn shame that it's I guess never going to see the light of day. Who knows? Because
Yeah.
people have been talking about this for like the past week, so maybe that'll perk up some executives' ears. But
I also don't know.
Yeah.
I've been trying to find any like conclusive answer. I think it was FX that canceled the show, but I'm not sure if it was like more of an FX decision or more of a Marvel decision. I really don't know where that landed.
Yeah. Oh, thought occurs. What if it might have actually been Marvel now that I think about it? If the Fox merger, because that hasn't been finalized. That's, I think, actually got to go through like the federal government to make sure it's not a monopoly.
Oh,
which,
fun.
Yeah, like again, to emphasize how fucking huge Disney has become. Like that's the only reason why it was announced back in like November or
I feel
December.
like everything they
why
do
we
has
haven't
to
heard
be. I
anything
feel like
about
they're
it.
teetering on the brink of monopoly at this point. Like
They're teetering on the brink of being a sovereign fucking nation. Like they own so much shit, and I like the majority of it, but there's a sinister implication
Yeah.
to it all.
or at least just like the notion of,
It's
of
like-
anyone, no matter who they are, having that power is just like, oh, that's a tall one you got there. That's a lot. That's casting a big shadow on me right now. I don't.
Yeah, it's like that story where I forget what company it was. I think it was like Coca-Cola or something, where like they ended up getting paid in Russian submarines for something. So for a time, Coca-Cola was like the world's 5th most powerful military or something. I can't remember the exact details, but I swear to God, this is true. It was like I'm looking it up right now.
I have no
But, like,
words.
Right? Like no one ever does. It was Pepsi. Yeah,
Okay,
Pepsi had its own Soviet war fleet. Yeah, it was the Soviet government.
I don't know what to do with that. I got nothing.
It was
Deadpool 2
no, it
looks
was
good.
it was real. Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 looks good. Deadpool the animated series less real than Pepsi's Soviet fleet.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Action point. So, little backstory on this. This is a movie based off of a very true story. That true story taking place right in our home state of New Jersey. No less.
Not surprised. Oh, okay.
Yeah?
I'm aware of it. Yeah.
So,
I'm aware of the park.
yeah, so this was originally going to be called Action Park because the amusement park, well, basically the thing behind Action Point is Johnny Knoxville is a guy who runs a rinky-dink theme park where everybody is getting their shit pushed in by the rides. Everybody's getting hurt. And it is inspired by the real-life story of Action Park, which was a theme park in New Jersey that killed a few people.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, was it a few people or was it just one? At least one. At least one person.
Minimum one.
Minimum one died, and it wasn't like the Disney theme park death thing where it's like, oh, this like 90-year-old woman had a heart attack and died. Like, no, as in was like mutilated and killed by the attraction. And not in the Disney way of like, oh, they slipped behind the doors at America Sings. Like, for real, like, just the attraction murdered the shit out of them through just by existing. I think it was the guy, there was like a rapid canoe ride, which there's a really good short kind of video essay type thing by this channel, Defunct Land, which I love. It's got lots of old theme park type stuff on it. It's like a 17-minute video just going over the whole history of it. I'll link that in the description. But basically, one of the rides they had at this place was a canoe ride in like an actual river, but they installed big fans in the bottom to make rapids that would toss your canoe around. And a guy got thrown out of the canoe and like sucked down by the fan, and then he got electrocuted.
Oh God, that's so many things.
It's so many things on a fucking theme park ride, and not even a really good one at that. Uh, but yeah, no, this theme park was infamous for the amount of people it put in the hospital, especially because it served alcohol. So people would go there, get liquored up, and kill themselves on water
I
slides.
forget if this was like an actual thing or if it was just like a thing that came about because of it, but wasn't there like an unironic like "I survived Action Park" T-shirt that was like a bit of a famous thing for a while?
I would not be surprised at all. Yeah, Google shows that uh, I survived Action Park is very much a shirt complete with fake blood
Because
splatters.
I'm not certain that that's where that whole thing started, but I'd believe it.
I'm not sure if it's an officially licensed shirt. I'd be a little surprised if it was, but I would not be at all shocked if it was like a true jersey
Yeah.
type thing that they sold through that, you know. But yeah, Action Point. It's got Johnny Knoxville in it, and the funny thing about this is, it's like I like Johnny Knoxville.
Mhm.
I like the Jackass crew. I fucking love the Jackass movies. I made a tweet a while ago. I was very proud of, and it was Jackass 1 is a comedy, Jackass 2 also a comedy, Jackass 3D is a drama because they're all old and sober, and you just feel fucking bad for them, especially Steve-O.
Well, I mean, Steve-O was the one actually going through rehab at the time, and I'm pretty sure, like, just in order to, like, stick by their buddy, they demanded that no alcohol be on set for the third one, which also means everything hurt a lot more, but that's still really sweet.
Oh yeah, no, in solidarity, they all went sober for the shooting of the movie to help support Steve-O. And it fucking shows when there's that one, I forget what the hell they called it, but it's where they took a fucking loaded porta-john and put it on a big slingshot and like rocketed Steve-O into the air, and he gets covered in shit. It's the saddest thing ever.
Jesus.
It's not even funny. It's just a man who's really hurting getting covered in feces. And you laugh when it's over, because then he immediately goes and tries to hug all of his friends. But while it's happening, you feel that.
I also remember, I forget what actually happened, but I remember vividly there was an exchange between Steve-O and somebody else where they're just like, hey man, do you ever get scared during moments like this? And he just kind of pauses for a minute and gets kind of red in the face and just like replies back really like sheepishly, just like, yeah, and then he goes and does it anyway.
I think was Jackass 3D the one with the big rocket? Because that one actually
honestly,
almost
they blend together a little bit for me. It's hard to pinpoint which one's what. That was a long high schooly time ago.
It was either that needs to be another marathon night. The Jackass movies are fucking brilliant. The big rocket one, I think it was either 2 or 3, but that one malfunctioned and literally, honest to God, almost killed Johnny Knoxville.
Jesus.
Like, the whole thing was he had like a cape and a helmet, and he was going to ride a big cartoonish looking rocket that would be propelled off of a boat ramp over a lake. And they eventually got it to work, and it shot him up like 30 feet in the air and dropped him in the lake, and everything was good. But the first time they did it, something inside it just exploded. And they looked at it, and there was like a clean, like softball-sized hole where the shrapnel flew out of it, literally like a foot away from his chest.
Jesus.
So if the whole thing was rotated like another degree, Johnny Knoxville would have gotten like exploded on a big cartoonish firework. And then he wouldn't have been able to star in Action Point.
I feel like you need to title this episode, "If I Can Just Go Off on a Tangent."
Oh no, the title of this episode is Runaway, Segue.
Jesus.
And I think the thumbnail is going to be like, I'm thinking the poster for Paul Blart where he's on the Segway like screaming.
Okay.
But I think maybe his face will be the Globglogabgalab, but we haven't even gotten there yet. We need to pick it up. But Action Point, the thing that I think looks really cool about this is apparently all of the stunts are 100% real.
Which makes sense for the people making it.
Right? It is, so it's a narrative film, but with Jackass style, like for real, no harnesses stunts.
I mean,
And
wasn't that
that's worth the price of admission alone.
wasn't
That's
that
interesting.
I haven't
looking.
seen Bad Grandpa, but wasn't that what Bad Grandpa was? Except it was like the skits that they would do on Jackass that were like just fucking with people in public.
Yeah, there was no like. I mean, there was some like physical stuff in Bad Grandpa, but a lot of it was just the like, let's put Johnny McLeod old age makeup and have him fuck with people.
Which was
There
also
was
a
a lot of
staple
that kind of Jackass.
that, from what I remember.
Yeah, no, Bad Grandpa's a fun time. But yeah, Action Point looks interesting. We got a trailer for something called The House with a Clock in Its Walls.
Okay.
Which I fucking have no idea.
I am interested in it. I think it toes the line between like horror movie for children and genuine horror movie, which is exactly what I think I've seen people ask for years on the internet of just, I want a thing for kids that will genuinely scare them, because that's what I had when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I think that that'd be great.
Yeah, you had shit like was it The Gate and Gremlins and shit like that. That would just like, it wasn't rated R, and there wasn't a whole lot of like blood or swearing or nudity. But it was
they were
fucking
just smart about
movie,
how to make
you know?
it really eerie or scary, and that's what this does. Like, half of it looks like it's a sequel to the Goosebumps movie, and the other half looks like it's genuinely terrifying. Well,
that's also because it's got Jack Black in it, who's going to come up a lot more in this podcast. But
is he?
Yeah. We got to get to the movies I watched,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, House of the Clock in Its Walls. I'm always down for kids horror. I think kids like being scared. Kids should be scared.
Mm-hmm.
Builds character. But yeah, no, I like to see that weird little movies like this are getting made. Apparently, it's based off of a book, but I never read it. I've never heard of it. But yeah, movie looks interesting. And then we also got a trailer for Terminal.
Some say to survive it, you need to be as mad as a hatter. Which luckily, I am.
We got a teaser and a regular trailer for Terminal, and that looks very, very interesting. Mainly because I don't know what the fuck it's about.
I kind of have an idea. It looks like, I don't even know how to describe, like neo-noir Fargo, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like according to the Wikipedia page, two hitmen agree to take on a high-risk mission for a mysterious employer and a large paycheck. Along the way, they encounter a woman who may be more involved in their mission than they had realized, and that's it.
Yep.
It's Margot. Watch out for Margot Robbie, the movie.
Yes.
And it's got Simon Pegg. It's got other people.
It looks a little bit comedy. It looks a little bit rock and roll.
Most importantly, it's got fucking Mike Myers, who I don't think has been in a movie in the past like 10 years.
I don't think he's been out of face makeup in the past 10 years.
Where the fuck has... I'm looking up.
He's been hiding in the background / foreground of The Gong Show for I don't know how long that show's been on, honestly.
This is literally his first non-documentary appearance in a full-length movie since Shrek Forever After. That was the last movie he was in. Like,
where'd he go?
Oh yeah, and he was hosting the Gong Show too. I didn't even know that came back.
I mean, hosting the Gong Show in air quotes.
Yeah. They propped him up and got a little Muppet stick so that he would hit the gong every 15 minutes. But I'm glad to see that Mike Myers is back to acting. Doing something.
I hope he's having fun with it, having a good time.
Yeah, like the fucking Austin Powers is another series that's worth a marathon. Those movies hold up.
I haven't watched them in a hot 10 years, but I know my parents loved them.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, no, Terminal looks really, really interesting. I wish I had more to say about it, but there's so little to talk about.
It looks neato.
It's just kind of there. Right. So yeah, those are some of the trailers we got in this month of March.
We're nearing the hour mark, and now it is time for movies.
Yes. Right. I figure I'll kick some stuff off. Movies I watched this month. We'll start high and we'll end lower than we could have possibly imagined. Uh, First off, we have one of my new favorite movies of all time, a little movie called The Lobster. It is made by this guy named Yorgos Lanthimos, who also made The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I also need to watch because I've heard that's very good.
I've heard that's very good. I don't know anything about this.
Basically, the plot is that Colin Farrell is separated from his wife, and he goes to a hotel, and he has X amount of days to find love at this hotel, and if he doesn't find anybody within the 45-day limit, then he is turned into an animal. And he chooses to become a lobster if he should fail.
Okay.
And that's all I care to say without delving into spoilers. It's really one of those, like, the less you know going in, the better it'll be kind of things. But, like, it is a fucking excellent movie. It's not for everybody. It's very, very dry, and it's very, very strange, and it really kind of hinges all on, like, its social commentary.
Okay.
But I absolutely adored it. Just because it's very much poking fun at the whole, like, perception in society where, like, oh, you know, find someone, get married, have kids, get old, die. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you need to do. You know, and it's like, if you don't have anybody, like, fuck it, you might as well be an animal. You might as well be dead. Nobody gives a shit about you.
Jesus.
Because you're barely even human. It's brutal. It is a blunt look at relationships and dating in the modern day. Very, very much on, like, the whole Tinder thing. Because everybody who goes to this hotel, they all have one defining characteristic. Like, John C. Reilly is in it, and his characteristic is that he has a lisp.
Sure.
And so, like, as the days go on, he's like, I'm a little worried. There's no one else here who has a lisp. And it's like, there's a guy that has a limp, so he like finds a girl that has a limp, but things don't work out. So that he ends up finding a girl who gets chronic nosebleeds. So then he starts bashing himself in the face every morning to give himself a nosebleed, so that they'll have something in common.
Okay.
It's shit like that. And then, like, when Colin Farrell is talking to the lady at the hotel, and she's like, you know, this is the bit that was in all the trailers, where she's like,
have you thought of what animal you'd like to be if you end up alone?
Yes, a lobster.
A lobster is an excellent choice.
have you decided what animal you'd like to be? And he's like, yes, a lobster. And they're like, a lobster's an excellent choice, but most people usually pick, like, cats or dogs or birds or something, you know, something standard and boring like that. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to be a lobster? And his answer is basically like, well, they live for upwards of 100 years, and they're able-bodied and, like, virile that entire time. So I figure that'd give me the best shot.
Okay.
And it's like, it's a bleak fucking look at modern romance, but with a hefty dose of pitch black.
Sounds like a
comedy
fun
in there.
time. I'll have to check it out.
It is a wonderful time. Yeah, no, it's one of those movies, kind of like 500 Days of Summer, where I watched this and I was like, I feel like I'm watching my own funeral right now. This is great. This is great.
This movie is calling out me specifically, it feels like, and I want to keep watching.
Yeah, like, make it hurt more. I love it. It's great. But yeah, that was The Lobster. And then I know you saw Annihilation.
I did see Annihilation. I
didn't get to check out Annihilation. How was that?
I saw it by myself. I watched a matinee because I had the day off, and I cannot afford movie tickets.
Nice.
The way that I will describe it is the most well-made movie I ever had a completely emotionless, neutral reaction to when I walked out of the theater at the end.
Ooh.
It wasn't like... I didn't dislike it, but it was so... It's not even like... depression has like the notes of like sadness when you talk about it, even though that's not really, it's more of like an empty feeling. And that is what I felt walking out of this movie, of just like not sadness, just like an emptiness to it. But I think I considered it a good movie. There was stuff that I liked about it. It just emotionally left me kind of like empty at the end of it. Like it definitely had an ending. It was a weird feeling. I've never felt that way walking out of a movie before. So I enjoy it for that, like that new experience. That being said, there is a lot of great character work in it. My favorite was Gina Rodriguez, who is on the CW show Jane the Virgin.
Yeah.
And she fucking slammed this performance. She was the funniest character. She was the scariest character.
Really?
She had very little screen time, and she stood out high above the other supporting cast that was there. Like, she was the best time whenever she was on screen, in my opinion. And I think I don't want to get too much into it, but there obviously, the basic premise of it is like there's this weird otherworldly thing on Earth now,
right?
And they walk into it, and it has all these weird creatures in it, and that's as far as I can really get into it without spoiling it.
Yeah, that's what it struck me as, that kind of movie.
Yeah, but there is one in it that is like the tense scene in like the kind of the middle-ish of the movie, and it is also very much a Gina Rodriguez scene, and that is the part that people talk about the most. From what I've seen, and it's really good. And otherwise, I just I didn't really know how to feel about it. Like it made me think, I guess. Like I understood that, like, the basic theming of it, of what it was trying to say about humanity, and it's I guess the biggest indicator of what makes humanity different in terms of humans versus animals, and like who counts as a person and who doesn't. It is essentially self-destruction. That's scratching the surface of it without being able to talk about the plot in a very large way. Yeah, it was something. I think you should see it just to try to figure out what that something is for you.
I want to check it out, because I know I've heard from a lot of people that it's like a sci-fi movie. Like, it isn't like, it's not like how people describe like Ready Player One as a sci-fi movie, where it's like it's in the future.
No, this is like,
it's like, this is like a sci-fi, like a sci-fi-ass movie. Yeah, it's based off a book, isn't it?
Movie. Yes, it is. It's a science fiction movie that absolutely revels in the science of it. Like, it's just loving it.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm curious whenever a movie comes out and it gets a lot of really good press and a lot of really good reviews, and then everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I absolutely loved it." And then there's a total bloodbath in the comments about whether you like or dislike the ending.
Yes.
I've heard that from a lot of people. There's a lot of contention going on there.
I don't know even about dislike. I mean, I guess I would count it under disliking the ending. Not so much in that it was like bad in any way. It made narrative sense, and like it fit with the story. It was just I didn't feel anything about it. Like, it got to the end and you knew what was happening right there, and it's kind of just like a long held shot with no dialogue and just like characters physically existing in a scene together, and there's no emotional experience to describe from that, really. Like, I don't know what to tell you that scene made me feel other than nothing. It just kind of happened in front of me, and it made sense that it was happening, and that was it. So I guess I would count that didn't like it.
That's one I gotta check out. definitely in that case.
Yeah, you should see it, if only because you'll want your own opinion on what that was. And I want to hear it.
Yeah. As for a movie that I did see, I watched a little film that went straight to Netflix called The Polka King because I had to
That one sounds
appease
a lot
the
more
ghosts
fun.
of my ancestors. Yeah. This one's about how some people will never find love, and this one's about how, like, do humans even matter? And this one's Jack Black and the Polka King. Ziggy zaggy, ziggy zaggy. Yeah, no, this one basically it reminded me a lot of. Have you ever seen Bernie?
I have
With
not,
also
but I've
Jack
read
Black.
your review of Bernie, and it made me want to see it, and then it got placed on my ever-growing list of movies I need to see, and I never went to it.
This movie is basically like they're directed by different people, and they have no similarities
But
in terms of like who made them aside from Jack Black. I almost consider them like this two movies in the same series. It's two movies, and the Jack Black plays a folksy weirdo who does something really bad category.
okay, I think I remember a while ago in our very specific Facebook film group thing, somebody posted a thing of like two movies that you wouldn't necessarily pair together that go really well together, or that don't have anything to do with each other really, that would go really well together. And I think that this is a good example of that.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's basically the plot of this movie is Jack Black is this guy. It's based off of a true story, like Bernie, where Jack Black plays this guy named Jan Lowan or Jan Lowan or whatever. They make a running gag out of it where people ask how he pronounces it, and his answer is like, "Oh, however
Okay.
you want," because he's the ultimate showman / entrepreneur / immigrant
Sure.
in America. And that's kind of the underlying thread is there's a lot of stuff about like the American dream and like the role that immigrants play and stuff like that. How he's kind of like this folksy weirdo who everybody loves because he's such a good guy and he loves America. It's country of opportunity. And then he swindles like thousands upon thousands of dollars from the old people that listen to his music. And you're kind of left wondering like, oh, did he just do this because like he got in too deep and he didn't want to steal, but he did try and make it all right? So it was just a matter of him kind of like fucking up? Or was it like, no, he totally knew what was doing, and the whole like, hey, I love America, like I'm such a cute little immigrant thing, like was that just an act?
Okay.
Because you don't know, because his whole persona is that he's a
Yeah,
showman.
so you don't know like what's the mask and what isn't.
Exactly. Like you don't know if because his whole personal philosophy, it's got Jason Schwartzman in it as his like co-band leader.
Least surprising
And there's a part
actor you
where-
could have named.
He's actually really good in it. Like you wouldn't. It's weird. It's simultaneously the most and least Jason Schwartzman I've ever seen
Okay.
him.
I feel like he fits a very
but, like-
specific niche in most films for himself.
Yeah, and like there's a part where he kind of calls him out on it. He's like, you've been like you've been lying to people and shit like that. And Jack Black straight up talks his way out of it. Like he's got him dead to rights, and he ends up turning it around because his whole philosophy is like, look, I said we were going to do this thing, and yeah, I lied when I said that, but then that thing ended up happening. I said it, and then I made it happen. So was it really a lie? And he completely turns it around. It presents this kind of interesting moral
Jesus.
quandary where you don't really know what to make of Jack Black, and you don't really know if he is actually acting altruistically or if the whole thing is a scam. You don't know if you want to feel like you want to. He's really endearing in the movie, so you want to kind of feel bad for him when things start going wrong, because it's like he's like a fun family man, and like he's a good guy, and he loves his family and his wife and his kid, and he wants to do right by everybody, but he's doing this really fucked up, deceitful thing. And it's kind of the same thing with Bernie, where that was like he's the sweetest, nicest guy ever, and
Yeah.
he killed this old lady, but she was nasty to him, and it's like, but he still
Yeah.
committed a murder. but he's still a really nice guy, and it's like you don't know what to make of it, and that's where all the worth from it comes from. As like a movie, it's just kind of okay. Like the plot doesn't flow that well. It's just sort of like scene after scene after scene. But it's got I don't know, it had like a really nice like kind of small town legend tone, you know, like in the same vein as something like because his whole thing is he was like the polka king of Pennsylvania or something like that. So it feels like in the same way that like Action Park is like, oh yeah, that's a thing where like nobody outside of New Jersey would really know or give a shit about it. This is the same kind of thing, and the tone and atmosphere of it kind of reflect that, where everything's kind of like a little weird and a little folksy and a little like a little regional, you know. But no, I kind of enjoyed it. I liked it. It was I like seeing Jack Black when he's allowed to act instead of just be Jack Black. Which is to say, I love Jack Black. I love Tenacious D. I love, you know, School of Rock, Pick of Destiny, Kung Fu Panda, but he's a really good actor, and I feel like he's really underserved when they're just like, oh, just do the like squeedly deedly skadoosh thing that you always do. Because here he is playing like an upbeat,
just like be you, man.
Yeah, he's being like a weird polka man who lives in Pennsylvania and emigrated from Poland, and it totally comes off like as supernatural. Like it works really, really well. But
he inhabits the role.
Yeah, no, Polka King, not bad. Good time.
All right.
Yeah, and then there was a. Well, why don't we go back to you? You had another movie that you had seen that I did not.
Yes.
And then we can get into the movie that we both saw.
Yes. Okay, that's a good plan. I saw Love, Simon, and I picked this movie to talk about specifically because I thought it would be you, me, and James, and I knew that of the three of us, I would be probably the only one going out to see this movie and also to talk about it for obvious reasons. For those who it is not obvious to, of the group, I am the only one that is not entirely straight. And this is a very niche thing to happen, which is an LGBT movie that is positive. They tend to have a lot of issues with representation where it's like, oh, this is like an LGBT love story, but they're cheating, but somebody dies in the end.
Toxic people.
Yeah. Like they always have this inherent like, oh, there's these two people to root for, but their love is inherently wrong but it's not going to work out, and that is awful. And this is not that.
Their personality revolves around what they like to put their dick in.
Exactly. And this is very much not that.
That was like the issue that I had with. Do you remember when they tried to relaunch Bill Nye for Netflix?
Yes, I do. I did not watch it, but I knew of it.
They did a whole skit where the whole time I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, like, It felt really like what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of shooting themselves in the foot, because the whole bit is it's about like ice cream, and there's vanilla ice cream, you know, and he's like a boring old curmudgeon who doesn't approve of people being chocolate or vanilla, and then they all basically like, I mean, not to say that they rape him, but like. They coerce him into getting in the same bowl and having a big ice cream gangbang because it's boring to be vanilla, so you should choose to be something more interesting.
Oh, okay.
And it's the whole time I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, like what, like ew, like why would you make this? And yeah, no, I'm glad that we're getting a lot of movies now. Like, I know that Call Me By Your Name, I've heard was another one that really...
I saw that one too. Also really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like, that was the thing that I heard about that one, is that the big positive takeaway with that was, yeah, it's just a love story about people. Like, they're humans.
Yeah, they're very well-written humans and well-acted. And this is...
I'm glad we're getting a lot of them. But yeah, tell us about Love, Simon.
Love, Simon. It is a romantic comedy, and as romantic comedies do, it has more cheese than a fondue party. The first 10 minutes, I thought I was going to hate it and that it was going to be way too aggressively attempting to appeal to millennials. And it kind of toes that line. It very much.
Did they tweet hashtag NBD in their hot power yoga class?
It is not,
listening to EDM on a skateboard.
Sony's Amazing Spider-Man, but
Sony's
it's close. I think my biggest issue with it is that, like, for the first act, I'm gonna say, before the plot really starts to like sink into it, it kind of comes across as adults writing teenagers in a very obvious way, like what they perceive teens today to be. Yeah. And it's like it's not exactly what I was expecting. But then it gets into like the actual meat of the plot, which is that Simon is a teenage boy who is not he's gay and he's not out to the world at large, anyone. And then there's like a you know, in high school there was those like anonymous like forum things where you would like post stuff and you would see stuff exclusively from your school that was just anonymous messages from people. That kind of started in like the late 2000s and was absolutely just a recipe for disaster.
Kind of.
Okay, just like, you know,
like
those like pop-up websites.
Would an equivalent be like Yik Yak or something like that?
Yeah, just stuff where people could like post stuff about their general life revolving around their school. And it was one of those.
Right.
And so he sees a post from another guy who talks about how he's gay but not out. And it has like a little thing to email people. And so he emails the guy and they start like a kind of romance across emails with each other, despite the fact that they don't know who the other is. And both of them are a little bit hesitant to reveal their identity to anyone, including this other anonymous person.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. And then
that's a nice concept.
Yeah, and it was based on a book, and the book is apparently also very good. And it started going in a pretty realistic pace there. It's a little bit aggressively, like plot-wise, it's a little bit aggressively like upper middle class white people who have literally no other problems other than this one problem that this kid has, which granted is a very serious problem. But the whole movie starts out with like him doing like a narrative overview of like his life, and he's like, well, my dad was the quarterback, my mom was the like high school cheerleader. They were like the big men and women on campus. My little sister is like a teen genius cook who's perfect in every way, and I get along with her, and we all get along. And there's a little bit of, it's a little more complicated than that, and a little bit more problems start to like seep in as they keep going. But for the first act, that's what it seemed like, was that it was pretty cookie cutter, generic, like this family looks like a family you'd see in a commercial that wouldn't get any characterization. And as it goes on, they get better than that. The dad like casually drops stuff like vague references while they're watching a TV show of like, oh god, you clearly know that this guy is gay, and just starts throwing out jokes while Simon just sits there like eyes down, trying not to interact with that at all. And as it gets more into the second act, his identity becomes a bit more of a thing that he can't control, being like responsible or not. He gets a bit less control in whether or not he decides to come out or not. And there's a lot of genuine tension from that. And then when it gets to the third act, like surprisingly, it gets very genuinely heartwarming, and the acting just ramps up in certain scenes, particularly when he's talking to his parents. And it was surprisingly great, but it went like first act was the worst, then second, then third was the best, and it just kept getting better as it went. Standout performance from the supporting cast was definitely the theater teacher. who was acting her goddamn heart out. She was the funniest person in that movie. Every single scene she has is just like a tiny little aside where she's just going off about how she should have been a lot better in her life, but instead she's like teaching theater for a bunch of high schoolers who are very realistically bad at what they're doing.
Oh god, I took an acting class last year, and it was a time.
It's very much like that. It seems like a lot of actors who are very good and are very good at like making fun of high school acting, and like the general kind of knowing what you're doing but not quite enough, that kind of thing. And yeah, I think I had a problem with the way that the third act goes. Like one big one right at the end there, and it's mainly in how the resolution of the story happens, which I can't go into too much spoilers, but at the beginning,
I mean, if you want to, because I mean,
that's true. If you want to fast forward a little bit, this is going to be like a spoiler thing. So at the very end of it,
you could try see if you can't keep it light, like be vague about it. Be mysterious.
I'll hint at it. So there's a point that happens involving a Ferris wheel thing, and it raises a lot of issues morally, with like the process of coming out and who gets to choose that and how public or private it is, and that's definitely a part of the plot earlier than that, for like one character, and then they just kind of ignore it for this character. Like they don't see how it's the same issue, of like a yes or no here, and that I didn't like. And then I read that in the book it happens so much more privately, and that makes so much more sense to me. And I guess they just did it to like give it a narrative resolution of everyone else in the like all the other characters in the plot. To make it a more public thing instead of a more private thing. And I honestly probably would have preferred the private one more. But overall, it was a very nice time. It was nice to see a happy movie about being gay that doesn't end with somebody dying or being like cheating on their other partner or some other thing. And yeah, let's make more movies with queer people where them being queer isn't the point of the thing. After we do a couple more of those where it ends happy is my takeaway from this.
Yeah, let's make movies with characters and
like
plots.
talking about romance in a way that isn't talked about enough in a happy way is great, and we should do some more of those. But let's actually start to trickle in people who are people into movies.
Yeah, exactly. Similarly, that ties into, we could use this as the only non-Runaway segue to transition into Black Panther, because I finally saw Black Panther.
Yeah, and I also saw Black Panther.
Yeah, so now we could finally have a Black Panther discussion. And what you said about how Love, Simon didn't end in tragedy. It was just a nice normal movie.
Yeah.
And that was actually something I had seen before I get into my thoughts on Black Panther, that I had seen. Or actually, should I give my thoughts first? Because I feel like that'd help kind of contextualize. You know what? Yeah, I'll get into what I thought first.
Sure.
Put a pin in that. But yeah, I saw Black Panther. Went in with decent expectations, because it's Marvel, and at the worst, Marvel movies are fine. They have yet to put out anything I think that is as bad as the majority of the DCEU,
right.
Or Michael Bay's Transformers, or anything like that.
Like
even the worst
this
one.
Of hey, this is two white guys talking about Black Panther. Begin.
Like that's the thing. Like even with even the worst of the MCU, like even something like Thor 2, it's still like it's basically watchable, And I went in with like, I had tempered my expectations because I saw I feel like there was a bit of a media blitz over it. I feel like
there was a hype train
gotten a little out of control. Yeah, and so I kind of tempered it back, and I went in and I walked out. And it was fine. It was good. I liked it.
I really liked it. I had a great time. I thought that the plot was surprisingly succinct for a Marvel movie. They tend to occasionally not know where to go, or just Thor to it and leave it particularly bland, in my opinion. And I felt like this stayed pretty entertaining the whole way through. It did the thing that Marvel, or it didn't do the thing that Marvel had been doing for a while, which is that it had an interesting villain, and I'm glad that the last 3 Marvel movies have kept that running.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, Killmonger was fucking awesome.
Killmonger was good. Ego was great. Vulture was good. Hela was okay, but Kate Blanchett is so good that she kind of elevated that. Even though the character is
I
really
thought that she was a
simplistic.
good comic book villain for a movie that was very comic book.
She served her purpose in the plot without being as bland as, like, I don't know, like
Marvel villains we don't remember the name of.
Yeah, fucking what's his name? The elf from Thor 2.
I could not tell you.
Fucking what's his face? Yeah, they wasted a Doctor Who for that.
Gun to my head, I have 0 guesses.
I think it was like Malekith or something. Malekith.
Sure.
Something like that. But
Hela,
no,
I can be like, oh, Hela, yeah, I know that character. I recognize her, and I know what she's about, which is more than I can say for, like, the villain from Ant-Man.
Yeah. I liked him just because of how, like, stupid he was. Whoever that guy was, I think it was Corey Stoll, he was cranking that shit up to 11, and that kind of, again, elevated it from being like, oh, look out, Ant-Man, it's bad Ant-Man, to being
he
like
was
something
evil
actually
bald
worth
businessman
watching.
#1.
Yeah. He reminded me kind of Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns. How his Lex Luthor is, like, fucking cartoonish.
Okay, but I actually liked Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor in Superman Returns.
I love Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, and it's a shame that I won't ever get to like him in that or anything else ever again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big shame. But yeah, getting back to Black Panther.
Yeah, Killmonger was a great villain who had, like, understandable goals that I could empathize with while still disagreeing with.
Yeah. I do think Michael B. Jordan was the best thing about it. I'd heard that he was really good, and I got exactly what I expected with that. He was really, really good in the role. I think the way that character kind of influenced the soundtrack choices too. How, like, early on it was more like orchestral stuff, and then when he took over, it became more modernized. I thought that was a really nice touch, which is especially appreciated because fucked if I can remember the majority of Marvel's scores. And I mean, I'm not sitting here like humming theme from Black Panther, but I remember actually watching the movie and thinking like, oh, this track's pretty good. As opposed to like, yeah, this is the kind of music that would be happening in a scene like this. It didn't feel super assembly line in that regard. Yeah, no, Killmonger is cool. I really like Andy Serkis in, like, literally everything, but
Andy
especially
Serkis was a
here.
great
I
villain.
thought he was having a ball.
Well, minor villain.
And you know what? Fuck it. Let's get into spoilers. I'll put something in the description.
Yeah,
or
it's
maybe
also
on
been,
screen,
a month, 2 months?
that you could click on. Actually, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. If you haven't seen Black Panther and you care about spoilers, fuck you. But I don't like that they killed off Andy Serkis.
It was very abrupt. I was not expecting that.
That was a bad move. They keep doing this where they cast really good actors as villains. Where, like, you got the elf was like Christopher Eccleston, and then the bad guy in Doctor Strange was Mads Mikkelsen. And then now you got Andy Serkis, and they keep casting all these really talented people and then just fucking killing them before they have them do even anything. Same thing with the first Guardians of the Galaxy, fucking Lee Pace, but I know apparently he's coming back in Captain Marvel because that takes place in the 90s. So that'll be cool to see more of
I was surprised he was coming back.
But, like, yeah, no, I'm actually kind of excited for that one, if only for the timeline shit. And also fucking Skrulls. But yeah, no, I feel like Andy Serkis is awesome in this, and Claw in the comics is, like, the Black Panther villain.
Yeah.
So killing him off this early, it's like, okay, I get it, it served the plot, but, like, come on, man, you couldn't have figured out another way to do that where you could still keep Andy Serkis on retainer and be like, hey, this is a big actor that everybody knows and everybody likes this character, and we could totally do way more with him because we barely scratched the surface or anything. And it's like, nah, fuck it, kill him. Kill him for this one-off movie villain so he could get to a location. And it's like,
yeah. I feel like they could have had the same
wasn't
scene, but
expecting
they
it.
could have just like
I wasn't
removed
expecting it,
his
but,
arm,
like-
and then that would have effectively taken him out just as much as like it would have been more brutal, and he would have been able to come back, and he still would have
Yeah.
been out for the rest of the movie and served the exact same purpose.
Unless they decide to do something real stupid where, like, they see, like, oh, focus groups show that people don't like that Andy Serkis died. So, oh, he stole so much vibranium, he can come back. Oh, you know. Which is like, all right.
They might give him like the Thor Ragnarok metal eye patch and just be like, oh, he survived the bullet in the head.
Yeah, because I think...
welcome to Kingsman 2.
I think Claw full-on turns into, like, a robot man in the comics. But,
I mean, it would...
Like,
it would make sense in the way that comics make sense.
yeah, I'd be fine with him coming back, I guess. But I just wish he didn't have to come back. But and that's the thing. It's like I wasn't expecting it, so I was kind of surprised. But like I feel like that's almost like I hope that doesn't become a trend for Disney. Like same thing with The Last Jedi, where like I wasn't expecting a lot of the shit that happened in that movie, but that doesn't mean that it was well thought out. You know, like. Don't just try and trick me. Don't just try and surprise me. Same thing with their animated movies too. Now that I think about it,
I was gonna say Disney has been having a bit of a trend of like,
oh, tricked you.
We need the moment that shocks you.
Yeah, and it's like now whenever I see one of these movies, I'm just gonna look for like the innocuous but always present character, and it's like, oh, I guess they're the villain. They're probably gonna be the villain. And it's like Zootopia actually got me.
Yeah,
Frozen. I called literally the second he walked on screen. And like, yeah, no, it's just it's going to be a bit much. It's going to be a bit much, but no, back to Black Panther. The plot I thought was interesting. I liked the conflict, and I wouldn't necessarily call this like a political movie. Like I feel like a lot of people are doing that just because the cast is majority black. And it's like, well.
I feel like in the
that's
narrative,
a little.
It's important to have a movie that has a lot of people of color in it. I don't think the movie itself had a narrative about that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you define Black Panther as a political quote unquote movie,
it was under.
You're doing that because
it was underlying in the themes
like
a little bit.
Yeah, like
but it wasn't
there was
focus.
A little bit of social commentary. But like, and that's the thing is, I thought it was very tactful in how it handled that. The whole kind of like, oh, you know, we're a big power on the world stage. Should we, you know, let in immigrants or whatever, or should we not? And it's like, okay, this is an interesting conflict because one, it's driving the plot, and two, both sides of it bring up really valid points.
Yeah,
you know, like where it's like, okay, yeah, if you didn't have these isolationist tendencies. Fucking none of this shit with Killmonger would have happened in the first place. But at the same time, yeah, you've got a lot of really insane weapons and a lot of fragile resources, and you don't necessarily want to be playing fast and loose with that.
I feel like
T'Challa
represented a good like. I wouldn't even call it a medium. Just like I think it was nice to have the character that like picked and chose which parts of which good points they made. And being like, we can do both. Like we can do it, but in a smart way.
He's a telltale protagonist. Andy Serkis will remember that. But then everybody's pissed off at him at the end. That was another thing I didn't like. What's his name from Get Out?
Yeah,
Daniel Kaluuya as his friend that like turns on him for no reason.
Yeah, it seemed to be largely fear based.
Like that was
like he just knee jerk reaction. Like this one, I'm back in this one. Which, granted, I didn't expect. Yeah, like, but the longer he kept at it, the more I was like, really? Would he do that? Would he still keep backing the wrong horse?
Yeah, like stuff like that felt kind of lazy. And like the same thing with the way that they resolve that big conflict is that like they have a big boring fight, which I'll get to that in a second. And then, you know, Killmonger dies, and he's like, okay, well, we're just going to expose ourselves to the world now. And it's like, oh, well, we've spent the entire movie, like, people have died because of this conflict and because of all these things that we're told matter. But then it gets to the end of the movie, and it's like, it'll just work itself out. And it's like, like, I was actually kind of invested. I'd like an extra 15 minutes.
Maybe
that
it was just me
instead
filling in the
of,
blanks,
you
but
know,
I actually
we just
thought
showed
that
up
was
to
just like the
Oakland.
natural progression of it. I think we saw T'Challa's like reasoning for doing everything, and like, or reasoning out where he wanted to take it as the leader, and then the last little like epilogue area was just him doing that. Like, we didn't see him squabble with the council about how he's doing this thing, which I feel like we wouldn't have needed, and I wouldn't have liked if it happened. He kind of just did it. It kind of just fast forwarded a bit, and
Yeah,
here's
no, I
him
agree.
doing what should be done, or what should have been done in the past. He's like making up for the mistake of what his father did with Killmonger.
I guess that's a way to look at it. I don't know. I was kind of unsatisfied by the ending, but and
I also got very Iron Man 1 vibes from the very end of that, where he's at the UN meeting.
yeah, I was kind of waiting for him to like flip on the suit or something, but I guess
Mhm.
it's good that they left it kind of subtle. But the one of the things that I think actually, like, the rest of the stuff, it's just kind of a matter of taste. But then the one thing that I think really fucking hurt this movie, and like, to be honest, will continue to hurt this character until the MCU finishes, is they introduced this fucking thing where his sister, who I didn't really like her. I thought the actress gave an okay performance, but I didn't really like that character.
I liked her.
I thought she was kind of annoying, but still, she makes a new suit for him, and I like the little symbolism where she's like, I made a couple different variants, and he's like, okay, well, it's a stealth suit, so I'm going to go with this nice, humble, classic looking one.
Mhm.
And then when Killmonger takes over, it's like, yeah, he took the one with all the gold and shit all over it, and it's like, I like that, but she introduces this new suit, and she's like, yeah, I put this thing in it where now you can absorb literally all of the kinetic energy that you get hit with, and turn it into a weapon and like pulse bomb people. And so from that point on, if Black Panther has the suit on, there is no tension in any of the action.
Yeah,
Because if he gets hit, he just starts glowing purple and gets stronger. And it's like, all right, well, like, I'm someone who enjoys Superman, so I don't care if, like, as long as the character is interesting, I'll get something out of
Yeah.
it. But when you have a character like Black Panther, where his whole power set is that he's like super fast and he's got like agility and martial arts, it should be like, especially when the director Ryan Coogler, he directed Creed. Like, this should be like the fucking Raid. There should be like some really awesome, like, close up choreographed fight scenes, and instead it's just like glowy ragdolls smack into each other. And the action was so boring, and the CGI looked really bad too. Like that fucking rhino.
I was
That
going to
rhino
say,
looked
the only
atrocious.
CGI that I really had a problem with was the fucking rhino.
The rest of it looked like passable, which, considering this thing's budget and the fact they got Marvel Disney money, it's like you could do better than passable, but whatever. But then you had stuff like that rhino, and like there's that bit where it was like the GIF that was floating around right before it came out, where they're fighting in the mines, and he like throws him and he swings around the thing, and it looks like a PlayStation 2 cutscene. Like,
I honestly don't
I don't
remember
know.
that part.
There was just some. I'm gonna try and find it, and I'll see if I can't
remember
post
the
it
part
in-
happening. I don't
in
remember the
chat.
quality of it.
It doesn't. It looked a little better for the film's credit. It looks a little better on screen, like finished product. But I don't know. I still got like some serious vibes of like cheapness to it. Like, Wakanda is this really cool, well thought out idea.
Yeah, the world building
But then
for
all
that
we see of
entire
it,
country was like surprisingly in
It
depth
was-
for
it
the
was
Marvel
interesting.
Cinematic Universe. Normally they just like hint at shit.
It was a cool, different locale. But then we got like one city street, which I think they just like reversed that set each time to make it look a little bit different. So we got like one city street. We got Shuri's lab, which is the only place you could take any wounded person in Wakanda. We had the council chamber.
Yep.
And you had the little waterfall, and then you had a big empty field.
You also had
And, like, those were all the
M'Baku's,
places in Wakanda.
place, which honestly, they were the coolest part. Like,
Those
of
guys
the
were awesome.
like side characters.
They were the best part.
I loved them.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
whole
yeah.
little like
I love that
obviously
guy.
you knew that he was coming back. Like, that was obvious, but still, that whole scene in there, they were just such cool
Yeah.
characters that I didn't care.
He was more interesting and had more of an arc than Black Panther did. T'Challa, it was just like, I just want to be a good king, and also I guess my dad isn't as great as I thought he was. But then he's still more or less the same. Whereas like M'Baku, who I am shocked and surprised that they did not use his comic book alter ego Man Ape in this movie.
Are you?
I'm so surprised that nobody called him Man Ape in this film.
I think they're just going to completely ignore that ever happened. Just
they're
cross that one out.
they're gonna whitewash Man Ape.
Is it?
They're gonna scrub him from the records. They're gonna Hulk Hogan Man Ape. But it sounds like I'm saying mayonnaise. Yeah, no, he was awesome. That guy that they got to play him. What was his name? Winston Duke.
Yeah.
Winston Duke is the guy who plays M'Baku. He was fucking awesome. And I remember after I saw the movie, I looked him up on IMDb. He's been in like nothing. So
he was really good.
Yeah, he had really good charisma and screen presence. He had good chemistry with just about everybody. The only action I cared about were the fights on the waterfall, because those are the only ones that had any kind of dramatic tension.
Yeah, and granted, the dramatic tension in those was really good.
I was surprised. I actually remember sitting in the theater being like, "Wow, I'm actually invested." When he was fighting Killmonger by the waterfall, because I was sitting there like, okay, well, and I think it was like a wake up call for how this Marvel Cinematic Universe is played out, to where I've almost forgotten what it feels like to feel actual tension, you know, because it's like, oh well, I know they're showing up in Avengers 17 coming out in 3 years, so I guess he's gonna win, you know, and it's like during the Killmonger fight, it's like, oh, he might lose. Like, I know he's gonna make it out of this okay, because the movie's Black Panther, and you know they're looking to build a franchise off this guy, but like there's still some stakes going on, and it was the same thing with in Civil War, like the final fight with Cap, Bucky, and Iron Man.
How do you win this?
It's like, I know all of these characters are coming back for Infinity War, but I'm still feeling some shit.
I feel like it just changed the nature of how we look at the tension, where it's not like if they're going to make it out, it's more how they're going to make it out.
Yeah, and that's the thing that bugged me.
And like, at what cost?
Yeah, is like they show awareness of that during like the waterfall fights, where it's like, okay, you know that Black Panther at the end of the day is going to make it out of this okay, no matter what happens. But we can still make it interesting. And then they decide to go and have like 20 minutes where nothing happens, and they actually expect us to think that he's dead for real, even though there's fucking Infinity War posters in the lobby with his face all over them. And it's like, you couldn't, like, how's about you take that 20 minutes and show him like just barely surviving the fall, and then he's got to kind of pull himself up by his bootstraps without like his superpowers or his suit or his throne or his subjects or anything. Like, why not develop him as a character? Because he was basically like, he was a secondary character in Civil War, and it doesn't feel like he gets much more development here.
See, I felt like he got different development here. I think like I liked seeing the difference of like him interacting with the other people in the MCU, where he's a lot more reserved, and like maybe it was just the lack of his character in Civil War that made him look more like a just like generic, like, I'm trying to be as serious as possible here, I'm one of the straight men. And in this one, it felt a lot more like him with his family. Like, you immediately go from like this man who is like the king of Wakanda and he has a lot of respect, into seeing him like with his sister, and she's like tossing jokes at him and nobody's giving him any respect. And it was kind of that like at work versus at home kind of dynamic. At least that's what I saw.
And I like that he's still the straight man. Like, I'm glad
he's
they're
just
committing.
as serious at home. It's just that they're like, you're my fucking brother. I'm not going to take that seriously.
Yeah, I like that they're still committing to making him not a quipster, because I feel like the MCU is fucking overdrawn on those.
So many of them.
I don't give a shit about. I don't need Doctor Strange making Beyonce jokes. That's always my go-to, because it's so fucking egregious.
Yeah.
Dan Harmon ruined that movie. But yeah, no, Black Panther, pretty good. I wouldn't necessarily personally rank it as one of the MCU's best. I'd say it's right kind of in the middle. I'd put it with like, you know, like an Ant-Man or like an Incredible Hulk. It's pretty good.
I have never seen
There's
the
the-
original Incredible Hulk.
Really? Well, the original Incredible Hulk, or like the Ed Norton Incredible Hulk?
Well, the Ed Norton one.
The Ed Norton one, it's okay.
The
It's not
dubiously
great.
not canon, but kind of canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally only canon because William Hurt and Robert Downey Jr. are in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's completely negligible.
Mhm. Uh,
But and then there's the Ang Lee Hulk from 2003. That is, I need to review that because I have not watched that since I was like 7 or 8, and I remember that being the first movie where I formed a hard opinion that I did not like it.
Jesus.
Everything else, I was a very passive child. Everything else, I was like, that was good. That was fine. For
See,
what
I'm
it is.
still at that for
And
the
that
most
Hulk
part.
movie-
It takes a lot for me to be like, man, fuck this movie.
That Hulk movie and Man of the Year starring Robin Williams were the first times I remember developing taste.
But on two opposite ends of the
Like,
spectrum.
Really, yes. Well, actually, not
Really?
really, but that's a podcast for another time. Why don't we move on? Speaking of things that we know we don't like, why don't we move on to the
Actually,
main event?
I think I have one more.
Oh, really? Yes.
Uh,
Go on then.
So before we get to that, because I realize it's not in the second list of things that we have down there, Pacific Rim Uprising is a movie that I saw.
Right. I forgot to throw that one on the
yeah.
docket. Yes, but tell us about Pacific Rim.
I got it. Again,
Uprising.
as I just explained, I'm fairly passive. It takes a lot for me to dislike a movie. And the same is true of this. I think I can understand that other people had a lot more negative view of this movie than I did. I try to look for the positives in things. But I will talk about some issues that I had with it. Overall, I think it was a fun time. I think you have to turn your brain off a little bit more for this one than you did for the first one. I have a couple main issues with it. So it's about Idris Elba's character, Stacker Pentecost's son, Jake.
Did he die in the first one? He died
Yes.
in the first one, right? Yeah.
Yes. Stacker Pentecost did die in the first one. And this narrative is definitely thematically different, and they kind of ease you into that in a way that I was fine with, which is that in the beginning, in the first movie, it started with a narration that explained the world as it was too. But you hear it from what was his goddamn name? Raleigh, I think, the main character of the first one.
Shepherd, white man.
Yes,
Charlie Hunnam. Charlie Hunnam,
You
right?
hear it through Charlie Hunnam, and he's very serious and dour, and that's kind of how his character is too. In this one, you get a more colorful opening narrative from Jake Pentecost, who is basically Stacker Pentecost's, as he shows himself in the intro, or as he presents himself in the intro, he's kind of the burnout child of Stacker Pentecost. He realizes just how great his father's shadow is and was when he was still alive. And he absolutely was like, there's no way that I can measure up to this, so I will go in the opposite direction. Which I can understand as a character narrative. It makes a lot of sense. And even when he does his like big speech that is indicative of like the franchise, the genre, where he gives his rousing speech to the troops in like the second act, he still starts it off with like, my dad was really great at these, I probably won't be. And like, it's clear that this is a very important part of his character, is that he knows that he's not as great as his father is, and that weighs on him a lot. And so it starts out with a bit more of a colorful narrative where he talks about his life, where he was a former member of the military. He was like getting trained to be one of the people who piloted a Jaeger. And he kind of just like flunked out and then became like a thief of sorts. He used his knowledge of like the Jaegers in general to kind of work his way through things and steal stuff and have know-how about Jaegers in general. And you get to see a lot more of like the world itself in this. Like you got a little bit in the intro of the first one, where it was like, hey, everybody's poor and things kind of suck for like the everyday man.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot more here. You see just how destroyed the world is and how people are basically living in like the empty shells of mansions of people that died and like that kind of thing. And it's really interesting to look at in the intro, just this kind of world building for it. And they have another relationship in this movie that isn't romantic, because I think they knew in the first movie that people liked the like general platonic relationship of Mako and Raleigh. Like that was one of the highlights that people were like, oh, they didn't turn this into a pointless romance. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
And
they were just buddies. They were robot buddies.
Yeah, they were just two people who connected in a way that wasn't that explicitly romance, because romance doesn't have to be the end all be all, was how people took from it, which was nice. That was a good job, Guillermo del Toro. And in this one, they did that too, but they realized that they needed something that was that, but not that again. And the way that they deal with it this time is that there is a younger female protagonist who is a kid that builds her own Jaeger, a very small one, granted, but still like a one-person tiny pilot Jaeger that she made herself. And through a series of mishaps, they both get back into the Pacific Rim program, like Jaeger program, and there is like kind of two narratives running of Jake's and hers. I'm trying to remember her name. I actually did like her character and her plot in it. Her plot mostly revolves around like they have these cadet kids in the new one. So it's kind of like they're like learning how to pilot Jaegers, and it's a little bit Evangelion of like kids learning to pilot these robots to save the world when they really are a bit too young for it. It goes a little bit harder in the that's what this is about thing. Whereas it was more of like a hint of Evangelion in the first one. But yeah, it was I know that a lot of people were like iffy on the kids and whether or not they enjoyed that plot line, but I liked them. Her name was Amara, by the way, the female protagonist. She was Amara. She was very cool. She was very cool. I liked her plot.
Okay.
I liked the cadets, and I had a thought in it that if they had to make like a Pacific Rim animated series, I know they did like a brief animated thing that I have not seen yet. But I think it would be a good idea, if not using these cadets, to just have the formula of cadets training to be Jaeger pilots as an animated series. Like, if that was just a Netflix thing, I'd watch that.
Yeah. Especially if they got Guillermo back.
They already got him for Troll Hunters. They can,
Yeah, I've heard that's really good too.
Troll Hunters is fucking amazing. If we can go off on a tangent this time, I love Troll Hunters.
Why stop now? I got to check out Troll. It's got Kelsey Grammer in it, right?
It does. It also has Anton Yelkin, who recorded all of his lines. So he's in the season that was recently released, season 2, which was good. And he's apparently also going to be in season 3, which is the last, which is great.
That's a lot of shit.
But I'm glad that they actually have him for the whole show, despite his unfortunate early death.
Yeah.
But getting off that point,
gotta check that out.
Yeah. So Pacific Rim Uprising, there were some problems that I had with it. Mako Mori was in it. She's like her and Charlie Day and fucking dude from Torchwood that plays the guy with the cane.
Is that the guy? The guy from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the guy that plays Dr. Gottlieb.
Right.
Yeah.
With side tangent, there's an episode of It's Always Sunny called Flowers for Charlie, where that same dude is. We might have mentioned this on the last podcast. Now I think
it's possible,
but we might have. But Yeah, no, that guy plays the doctor opposite Charlie Day
Oh god,
in that episode of Sunny,
that's a
and
great
he's
parallel.
literally playing just the same character. It's really good. It's really
That's
good.
fantastic. Um,
Stupid science bitches couldn't even make I more smarter.
so those three are like the main important people back from the original movie. The other characters are kind of shown or alluded to, but they're either dead or not there. But they're like a lot of the characters still have like a weight despite not being physically present. And
Right.
I don't know if you remember, but back in 2013, people really enjoyed Pacific Rim. And particularly, they liked
Yes.
the character of Mako Mori and how she was handled within the movie, to the point that the internet made a thing called the
Yes.
Mako Mori test, which I don't know.
Oh, that I'm not familiar with.
Yes,
Exactly.
it was.
Explain that.
It was an answer to the Bechdel test because they realized that it wasn't the best way to show like a female character's worth in a movie. Like, for instance, Gravity, a movie almost entirely starring crap. We do this with every single actor. Sandra Bullock. Thank you.
We're really bad at this. Sandra Bullock.
Every
yes.
single actor or actress that we try to name is just gone from our brain. But yeah, so Sandra Bullock is the main character in that. She goes through the whole thing, being very much the focus of it, but it doesn't pass the Bechdel test because there is not another female character due to its minimalist cast. There's 4 characters in it. Iffy on 4 characters. There's like really 2, and it's her and George Clooney. And because there's not a second woman, it doesn't pass the Bechdel test, despite being a very good movie that lauded a female character. So the Mako Mori test.
Yeah. The Bechdel test is honestly
Yeah,
flawed
and
as
even
hell.
Alison Bechdel herself, I think, was like, that's not really a good way to judge all movies anymore. Like, there are ways around it. It's not ironclad. But the Mako Mori test was one that said that there is at least one female character who gets her own narrative arc that is not about supporting a man's story. Those were the 3 tenets. One female character at least. She gets her own narrative arc. That narrative arc is not a supporting arc for a man's story. And
Right.
while I think Amara herself, as a character, passes that, my biggest issue, I'm going to delve into spoilers here. Do you want to delve into spoilers? I don't know if you plan on this personally.
Fucking go for it. I've already spoiled myself on I
Okay.
think the 2 most shocking things, and if I see this
Okay,
movie,
great.
it's gonna be to laugh at it.
So, spoilers,
go
if you
ahead.
do want to
Go-
see
go
Pacific Rim
on.
Uprising, but
Go on then.
Mako Mori dies.
Yeah.
And within that, she does not herself pass the Mako Mori test within the movie, despite being the lead female character of the last movie. They just completely toss her out.
Well, does the new girl at least pass the Mako Mori test?
Amara? Yeah.
That's better, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like if you wanted to be like a next generation thing, I could understand kind of putting her to the sidelines and have it be like a torch passing. But that's still kind of bullshit that they kill her off.
Yeah, like it was exclusively like for Act
Save
1
that for number
shock.
3.
Yeah. Like,
Oh my god, it's an Act
oh yeah,
1?
it's in Act 1.
Oh my god, that makes it so much worse.
Like,
Holy
that is the
shit.
first shocking thing to occur, is just like, oh, by the way, we're about to get the plot on a roll. Oh, wait, what's that? Evil Jaeger shows up and Mako's dead. Like,
That's so fucking
it was
stupid. That's so stupid.
and also, there is, we're just full going into spoilers now. We've already put the disclaimer. Here we go.
we can't put the genie back in the
Yeah,
bottle.
there is,
We gotta go.
there is, this one's just a very minor one that I had a problem with. There is a very ancient internet joke that is referenced at one point.
Oh yeah, I heard
Yeah,
about this
and
one
it
too,
comes
yes.
out of fucking nowhere, and the only other character in the scene
Go ahead and
that isn't the person involved in it also looks at it as if it came out of fucking nowhere, and there is no point to it. It is vaguely funny, but not in the sense of, oh, this is a funny scene in the movie, more in the, oh, it's funny that you thought this was a good idea to include in this movie.
Why don't you explain what that joke was?
It was so there is
I have some thoughts on it.
yeah, so there is all the cadets have like a basic they're not the most developed. There's one cadet in particular who takes a shine to Amara, and he is the most well-rounded. He's just like the one who isn't who like actively helps her instead of like either ignores her or is a dick about it. Which she has like there's a girl in there that like immediately takes a disliking to her because she's kind of like brought into the cadet program kind of as like an add-on with Jake. They like pick her up and they're like, you built this mini Jaeger by yourself? You're fucking going straight into the cadet program. Rather than like these kids who had to work their way up through like schooling and stuff to especially get into this. She kind of just got like picked up out of the like junkyard and tossed into the cadet program for free. So this one girl takes issue with that, and she honestly doesn't get too much characterization despite being like Amara's narrative's antagonist.
Right.
She gets like oh, I hate her. Oh, I really hate her. Oh, I guess I don't hate her that much. Those were like the 3 beats that she gets.
Right. She's a tsundere.
Yeah, and like she gets like an understanding. She explains the reasons that she hates her, and it makes sense. But they don't really do anything beyond that with her because this movie is overloaded with characters. And the rest of the group are kind of like one note, like this is what this person is, this is what this person is, and they set up this one kid, and he's basically like the nice Russian boy. That's him. He is noted. His ethnicity is noted. His name is noted, and he's one of the nicer ones there. And that's really all you get from him. He's the straight man to another cadet who is more of like the class clown cadets. Like he's the straight man to that kid. Except for this one scene where he just plays.
I want you to know before you go any further, the way you're describing these characters, it's like someone describing like a third world country. It's like, yeah, that's the fountain where we get all our water from. It sometimes it doesn't work, but it's okay. And
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, you'll want to go inside because it's like 3, and the warlord usually comes through at about 3. So, but it's fine.
Sure.
That's Dimitri. We don't really know anything about him, but he's okay, I guess.
Yeah, you don't really get to know anything about these kids. For the most part, you get to know a little bit about his partner, whose name I also don't remember. What was the name of this kid? These kids. Oh, okay. So Cadet Suresh is with him, and then he is Cadet Ilya. So Cadet Ilya plays the Trollolol song. You know the one, the meme. Look it up. You will absolutely find it. But it just plays, and Suresh reacts appropriately with, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then they put in like this ham-fisted like, "Oh, this was the song that my grandmother always used to sing to me when I was a kid," and they just blast off to it with him like being vaguely uncomfortable that his co-pilot is playing this stupid ass meme song. And there's no reason for it. It doesn't need to be in the movie at all. It just brings everything to a halt and like unplugs you into it and plugs you back into 2008 internet memes for no reason.
That's so awful. I almost love it.
It made me laugh. So it's kind of the Polka King with like it. Yeah, it's bad and shouldn't have been in the movie, but it was in there to be funny and it made you laugh. So did I really get it wrong? And then there's a lot of this. The rest of it is just me like pushing my glasses up to the bridge of my nose as I talk about how the plot doesn't make sense because the biggest issue is that the main point of the third act, like the final actual issue of the movie, is they're going to Mount Fuji. All the kaiju that are now in the movie, they're going to Mount Fuji with the idea that the blood or like something about their genetic makeup reacts with rare earth metals, which is the only thing they ever refer to them as. They never get more specific than rare earth metals.
Jesus Christ.
Makes the most volatile explosive that humans have ever seen. So, 80s monster movie logic. Got it. cool. The problem with that is that they specifically say that this has always been their goal. They always have been coming through the rift, and they've been trying to get to Mount Fuji to just destroy the world. It's a lot, but also it makes no sense that they apparently have so little control. They're basically, these kaiju that they're hurting are essentially hurting cats because they go to America in the exact opposite direction in the first movie. That's how, like, the entire opening moment in the first movie happens, is because they're in fucking Alaska where the white guys are, like, just waiting around and ice fishing in their Jaeger, like...
No, but it's got big monsters and robots, so it has to be in Japan.
And also there's a moment where, like, it's taking place in Tokyo, and this almost seemed like black comedy to me. This isn't necessarily an issue. It might have just been the darkest way to put it ever, which was it shows the kaiju attacking Tokyo, and they are stomping through, and they very visibly stomp on, like, a bunch of people. And you see them die, or like you see like the implication that these people just died, or they like get swallowed up in a dust cloud and the foot comes down and you're like, those people didn't make it out. And then like 30 seconds after that whole shot, you get like a little like call up from Dr. Gottlieb, who says, "Don't worry, all of the civilians have made it to the underground things.
Oh my god!
You can proceed with just destroying any building in the vicinity now." And like, the only way that made sense to me was that they confirmed that everyone who was above ground is now dead. So fuck it. Which is the darkest way of just being like, it's like, hey, there's no civilians above ground now, so you're good. Which, it's not technically wrong, but it's just really dark to see these people obviously die and then be like, everybody made it.
It's like Batman v Superman. I know that island is uninhabited. It's Sunday. Nobody'd be at work.
Exactly. It's one of those where it's like, you have to cover your tracks, but it was such a quick one-note way that it seems like they'd already written most of the movie, and then somebody went like, should we, like, they're really destroying all the buildings. Should we maybe clarify that there's nobody in those so we don't get a bunch of, Man of Steel shit? Yeah, so that was Pacific Rim Uprising to me. A lot of problems, ultimately enjoyable. I was also on a date when it happened, so that was probably led to my mostly positive opinion of it. I do like the way the villain was handled. I think we've edged back out into non-spoiler zone. The villain was genuinely surprising, and I enjoyed that they were willing to go there with that.
Yeah, I know about that one, but let's keep a little bit of air of mystery, because that's the reason I want to go see this movie, is to see how they pull that off.
That had foreshadowing that initially it was foreshadowing that makes sense, but when you look at it, you, like, without knowing that that's where it goes, you're like, oh, that was unsettling, but okay. You don't see it as like, oh, that's obviously evil. It came across as like, oh, that's just weird, because it pulls a very good bait and switch in that regard. But yeah, it's very good. I liked that twist. That was a well pulled off twist, in my opinion. But yeah, Pacific Rim Uprising. It was a turbulent movie.
All right. Well, moving on from just the wonderful paradise of it was pretty good. Let's get into some deep shit. Let's get real sad. Because last night,
you forced me to watch something.
Yeah, I shanghaied you, and were you drinking as well? Because I sure was.
I wasn't prepared to, so unfortunately, no. Which is probably why by the end of that, I was just like, please let me leave.
You poor soul. Yeah, we watched Straczynski and the Mysterious House. Now, if you're at all familiar with the hot new underground meme of the Globglogabgalab, or whatever the fuck his name is.
I had never even heard of that. I was not prepared for any of this.
Delightful. Really delightful. I'm the Globglogabgalab. I love books.
Yeah, this is where it comes from. Straczynski and the Mysterious House. It is a 30-minute long CGI cartoon from, what was it, like Hope Animation, Hope Pictures. And I'm pulling up the,
Which they abandoned all.
yeah, I'm pulling up the thing right now. Yeah, it's from Hope Animation. It is described as a magical adventure inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia, Walt Disney animated musicals, and the parables by Jesus Christ.
Yes. Do you want my one sentence review of this movie?
Yeah, go for it.
It was a spiritual in multiple senses sequel to Food Fight, and that is all you need to know. The best thing about it is its runtime, which is thankfully, mercifully 30 minutes instead of a full movie.
I don't know. I kind of liked the fucking music in this.
The music
Can
does
you
not
say-
sound like it was made by the people who made the movie, which is the biggest compliment it can receive.
When the Globglogabgalab started rapping, you weren't.
I was not down for that or any other part of this experience.
What about when the Rat King came out and he went, "I'm the Rat King"? And
I
then
was
he ran
kind of
away.
impressed that he could sing at a whispering low register, and that was about as close as I came to complimenting the movie, I believe. But you're the one with the recording.
Oh yeah, that's right. I recorded us watching it, so hopefully that'll go up sooner rather than later. But yeah, basically what this movie is you got this group of animal friends, and they come across a weird looking house, and they go inside, and inside is all kinds of metaphors for like a horrible Orwellian utopia run by Jesus, where they go to the basement and there's a bunch of books and there's a Scottish homunculus. And he's saying that there's the Scarlet Queen who's going to be pissed at him because he didn't turn gold into more gold. And then
It's a lot.
They end up like they get very excited by the books and they read them all, except one who doesn't read them all. But because they read them all, they turn into zombies. And this big slug man named the Globglogabgalab shows up, and he explains that he could shapeshift and turn into whatever he wants. And he has unlimited demigod powers given to him by the books. And then the Scarlet Queen shows up after the titular little character prays to her. And she shows up and she explains, she's like, yeah, the Globglogabgalab used to be a handsome elf prince until he read too many books.
There's a
and now
lot of
he's
themes
fat
in this
and
that
slow.
are not great.
There's so
30
many
minutes?
themes. It's a heavy fucking movie. Yeah, she's like he got exposed to dangerous ideas and it tainted him forever. And she's like, if you pledge your allegiance to me, you can have a seat at the great kingdom. And like just when you think it's about to turn into some Jonestown shit, everybody renounces books and knowledge and
Not
science
everyone.
and other religions and pledges themselves to the Scarlet
Spoilers, I
Queen.
guess.
Yeah, not everyone, except for the Scottish guy who is so scared. Yeah, the little Scotsman is so afraid that the Scarlet Queen will take violent retribution on him for not multiplying gold that he rejects her out of fear. And the narrator explains that the Gobglob will never get his nice body back, even though he gets a seat at the table now. And the Scotsman made his bed, and now he has to sleep in it. So it's like, if you ever fuck up, Jesus will forgive you, but he'll never forget.
The most negative depiction
That's the important takeaway
organized
for these
religion that I've
children.
ever seen made by people who apparently believed in that organized religion. It's really dark and cynical about it, and it's not even
really
like
bad.
trying to present it in a good way. It's just like, this is how it is,
It's
and
like-
that's it. And
it's
it's very
unsettling.
bleak.
It's very uncomfortable, and like, man,
It's poorly
the whole
animated. It has
message
poor
behind it.
morals.
The fact that this is a kids
It's-
movie.
It's a
where-
mess from start to finish, and I'm sad for having watched it.
I want to know who this guy, this David Hutter. He is the director, producer, animator, editor, sound recorder, and distributor of Straczynski and the Mysterious House. The following pages will tell us something about the background of how this project was birthed. Oh my god, there's like a whole making of on the website. The message of Straczynski.
You're doing that alone.
Let's take a look at the message of Straczynski.
God, I can't escape it.
Running the race on spiritual fast food. Who is the Scarlet Queen? This is like the Smash dojo after Subspace Emissary came out.
I have no idea.
What is the message of
reference
Straczynski?
I know.
He's a Christian that loves God. There's a battle for our mind. Oh my god. Yeah, no, this is all about dangerous ideas. This is all about how you should be careful about what you consume, because maybe Jesus will start to hate you if you consume too much of it. Oh my god, this page is going on for so long. I've been scrolling down the entire time we've been talking.
This world and
all
there's
who inhabit headers. It. The truth is actually out there. The difficult and often controversial bit. The good news, a church of hypocrites. Now is your time. Oh my god. Further useful resources. The atheist delusion. Why millions deny the obvious. Free on YouTube now. And also Superbook. Oh my god, you could get it on DVD. Oh my god, this is giving me a headache just looking at this.
Are we cutting this whole bit?
No, we have to tell the people. The world has to.
I don't think we do. I think it's like Beetlejuice. You just never say his name, and nobody has to know about it.
I feel like I'm in a creepypasta. Like I think my eyes are gonna start bleeding, and I'm gonna start making Hotel Mario noises if I keep reading this shit.
I can reasonably assume that if we don't tell anyone about this movie, they will never go seek it out on their own.
It's like the Bye Bye Man. Don't think it, don't say it.
Yeah, it's Freddy Krueger. As long as we don't put that name out into the world, he has no power.
Apparently, this is based off of a BBC audio play. And it's like, boy, oh boy, like, fucking remember, mates. Remember to have your dangerous idea licenses. Remember to have that reading license. Like, fuck, this movie's bleak. It takes a lot out of you emotionally, like looking at it, watching it, talking it. Yeah, right? Like, it weighs on your soul, which maybe was the whole point of it. I take it back. This whole thing was brilliant. It's the only real piece of art that we've talked about this entire podcast. You got me.
Can we please move to upcoming, for the love of God?
Yeah. Straczynski and the Magic House, please seek it out.
Please do not.
Tell the people they're already here. Upcoming movies in April. We have got, first off, we've got two different nature movies. We've got pandas and we've got dolphins. Pandas from Warner Brothers and dolphins from Disney, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember. But one is narrated by Kristen Bell and one is narrated by fucking Owen Wilson. So,
wow.
Take your pick, ecologically conscious families of the world. While everyone else is watching Avengers, you get to decide, do you want to watch Kristen Bell talk about pandas or Owen Wilson talk about dolphins?
I mean, if I had to choose, which is if
I'm actually curious, what would you choose? Gun to your head, you had to watch one of these, what would you watch?
I don't know. Like, I can come up with, I mean, obviously my answer would be neither.
I know for a fact which one I would choose between these two.
I know which ones I would choose, but it would depend. If I would say which one would I sincerely choose as like a thing if I were actually looking for a nature documentary to watch, probably Kristen Bell and pandas. If I were looking for something to watch ironically, Owen Wilson talking about dolphins or saying anything ever. I love his nasally voice so much, and it's inherently funny. I'm sorry, sir.
Because that's the thing. Because, like, I'm looking these up just to make sure that I'm pretty sure Pandas is Warner Brothers. Yeah, Pandas is Warner Brothers. And Dolphins is Disney Nature. So it's like, Pandas, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
It's going to be Kristen Bell. It's going to be Anna from Frozen talking about how good pandas are and how we need to stop them from extincting themselves because they're too stupid to find their dick.
I mean, it might
And
be
then you
fun.
got
She's fairly good at improv. I trust her as an actress, so I think that she might be able to get a little bit snarky in it and have a little fun.
Kristen Bell's great. But then you've got the idea of just like, oh, there's a dolphin. There's another dolphin. Like, I want to know, what does Owen Wilson have to say about the dolphins? I would go see that in a heartbeat. Get really, really drunk and go watch Owen Wilson talk about dolphins in IMAX. I would totally do that.
You say that like that's not going to be like a later thing that you do back in Jersey. I bet it is
going to be a thing. But moving right along, we've got 2 horror films also. One looks interesting and one looks like a laughable hunk of shit. We got A Quiet Place, and we also have Truth or Dare. Yeah, it's basically a family. They're in a house, and there's some kind of monsters,
Yes,
and you can't make noise, or else the monsters come and get you. And it looks spooky and it looks interesting. And it's been getting pretty good reviews from advanced screenings.
It is the best justification I've ever seen to make a movie entirely about jump scares.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I just hope they don't use that fucking violin.
I think if you watch this movie in the theater, it will be genuinely terrifying. I think if you watch it at home with the volume down, it will be the funniest reason to see these people constantly accidentally make noise for like 2 hours.
Yeah. It'll be Don't Wake Daddy, the movie.
Honestly?
The game about domestic abuse.
Yes.
But on the flip side, we have Truth or Dare, and this is another one of those like shitty, no budget. This is another one of those Bye Bye Man type movies.
Yeah, where it's just a bunch of people walking around a dimly lit location.
We need a date movie for fucking preteens to dump all their money into. So let's spend maybe $1 million, get some burnout nobodies from MTV, and just make the dumbest shit ever about like a thing that follows people or something. And they go to like Mexico and play Truth or Dare because it's the hottest thing to do in Mexico. And then it turns out the Truth or Dare, like a Ouija board, is actually like an old curse. So people get these big fucking like purge smiles on. And if anybody dares you to do something, you have to do it. So there's like a part where a dude like smacks his head on a fucking pool table. It looks really goofy. It looks really fucking silly. I look forward to pirating it and laughing at it with some friends. In the realm of actual good movies, we gotta. I feel like I've noticed. I've just kind of subconsciously organized these because we got 2 like animal movies. We've got 2 horror movies. We've got 3 movies that actually look pretty good, and then we got the blockbusters. And movies that look really good. We got Chappaquiddick,
which I've seen the trailer for. I haven't seen the other 2,
which is about Ted Kennedy and the whole going in the river thing. Looks really interesting. Always enjoy political dramas and stuff. I like it when there's movies that take something like a situation like this, and it seems like it's going for we're going to put a lot of emphasis on the characters kind of thing. Like this is probably going to have like some Oscar performances, or at least they're trying for Oscars in it. And I always look forward to stuff like that. But this looks good. We also have A Prayer Before Dawn, and this is released by A24, if I'm not mistaken. And I am slowly but surely falling in love with A24. They put out The Disaster Artist, they put out The Witch, they put out The Lobster, they're putting out a bunch of my new favorite movies. And I have actually made it a point. I'm going to try and watch like everything that they've distributed, because they always seem to be putting out stuff that's of quality. And this looks no different. This is about a guy who ends up in a Thai prison, and it was actually shot in a Thai prison, and he is a boxer, so he has to compete for fights. And I like movies about guys who go to prison and
this sounds like the opening, like the first act arc of the Raid 2. Yeah. And I really like that.
Yeah.
So I'm into it. honestly don't watch too many
Yeah,
prison
that's all I was
movies,
thinking
and
of
the
when I was
Ray is
watching
the
the
only
trailer.
thing that I have to put this up against. Oh, also that one video game that just came out that's like about escaping from prison. I forget what that's called, but that was like a thing that happened.
Oh yeah, uh, yeah, that fucking French Tommy Wiseau,
Sure.
that guy. Uh, yeah, fucking Mr. What did he say? Like fuck Activision or fuck EA or something like that. He
I
made a big
honestly
show of
couldn't
it at
tell
like
you.
E3 or like the Video Game Awards. It's great. I'll edit a clip in, but yeah, no, A Prayer Before Dawn. All I could think of while watching the trailer was the Raid 2 and like Riccio. If you ever watched Riccio,
Nope.
that's a real fun prison movie. Really good gore.
All right.
But yeah, no, this looks like the kind of thing that I'm totally gonna watch with the Long Run crew. If any of you guys are listening to it, look up A Prayer Before Dawn. It looks like something we'd all be into. And then from Amazon, oddly enough, we have You Were Never Really Here. And this is like Taxi Driver meets Taken with Joaquin Phoenix. Where Joaquin Phoenix is an assassin, he's a hitman, and a guy hires him to get his daughter back, and he takes a big ball peen hammer and he gets the daughter back. And then the daughter gets taken again, and then he's got to go get the daughter back. And I was really shocked by how much I wanted to see this by the time it was over, considering it opens up with the fucking Amazon logo.
Okay. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, no, it looks really good. Like streaming shit is really really coming onto the scene. And I remember I think I made a post on Facebook a while ago. There was a headline where it was like Steven Spielberg doesn't think that Netflix movies should be allowed at the Oscars. And I ended up sharing it with like, oh, King Laius thinks Oedipus shouldn't be allowed in Thebes.
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
Which was probably much more like unintentionally highbrow than I hoped for it to go for, but it'll be interesting to
like
see
high
Hollywood.
school reading.
Like that's high school, I guess. It's the fact that it's all like Latin Greekish names. But like that it'll be interesting to see in the coming years as like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon get way bigger. And now that they start putting out movies, like it'll be interesting to see Hollywood get into that kind of like death grips situation where they're desperately fighting back. Maybe they'll actually have to start trying, which would be certainly be something to see. And speaking of last two things we've got coming out in April. First off, we have Rampage. Insert clip of The Rock saying, "What's happening to my friend?" here.
What's happening to my friend?
Rampage looks like a goofy good time, and I actually, if I can make the time, because April's going to be fucking busy for me with work, but if I can make the time, I do want to go see Rampage. And then, of course, we have Infinity War, which they bumped this up. It was supposed to come out in May, and they said, fuck you, it's coming out a week earlier, because Disney is toying around with being an alpha male and fucking throwing their weight around. Because I think there was something that they bumped out of this slot, actually. Now that I think about it, it might have been Rampage. Like, I think Rampage started tracking pretty well. And, like, they bumped it back a week. And then everybody started delaying their movies.
Is that why that happened? I thought it was because...
It's almost like a...
or at least I heard somewhere, like, friend of a friend style, that, like...
I could
through the grapevine, somebody was like, oh, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. was like, hey, can I show Infinity War to a bunch of my friends? And then, like, the higher-ups were like, we can just release it a week early. And then they did that. And I assume the people in post-production started tearing their hair out and crying.
I wouldn't be shocked if that were the situation, because Robert Downey Jr. is, like, a stakeholder.
Yeah,
like, he's more than just an actor with the
He was
MCU.
not actually the originator of it, but he was the first successful originator of the MCU. He is the linchpin.
Yeah, and like that. That's actually another successful segue into the thing I wanted to talk about with Infinity War. What do we think is going to happen? Because I remember there were some quote-unquote leaks that happened a while back. Still not sure if they were entirely true, and I only remember some of them. But yeah, because obviously I think it's obvious that this is only going to be for the first half of two halls, but they're billing it as the end because you got to put butts in seats. I remember we talked about this last episode. We were saying like, okay, obvious ending is he gets all the gems and Thanos snaps his fingers and cut to credits. Uh, and then Avengers 4 is probably going to be like the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. Chris, I ask you, what do you think is going to happen? We'll just say who do you think is going to die and stay dead
In Infinity War?
in Infinity War or Avengers 4 Infinity Gauntlet? Whatever it's gonna be called. Like if you had to guess, or do you have any thoughts on this? Because I know I have a bet.
I think they're going to kill off Hawkeye simply because they never know what the fuck to do with Hawkeye, and that's the joke of Hawkeye. Who else would I put in that category? I think one of the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy might have to go down for shock value. And I think it's between it's a toss up for like Iron Man and Cap, who's gonna bite it as like the big like holy shit, this is serious thing.
All right.
And then there's also a part of me that says for at least Infinity War they might do the thing where they just kill off everyone. At least everyone that you assume can do something about the issue, and then cut to black, and then the Avengers will return in fucking the next one.
Yeah, considering considering the spoilers, I won't confirm or deny anything that you've said, at least against the leaks, because again, I don't know if they're true, but also I wouldn't want to put potential spoilers.
I don't either, but after this is over, you should tell me them.
Right. If you're sure. But see, I have a theory now. See, I think that their characters will die in Infinity War, but I think it's all going to be negligible because there's going to be a whole nother movie. And when you've got stuff like the Time Stones, like I know there's speculation that Captain Marvel is going to involve time travel because it takes place in the 90s.
Sure.
And stuff like that. So I don't think that any of the real permanent story beats are going to happen until Avengers 4. But I think that when we get to Avengers 4, and I'm gonna put my chips on the table, I'm gonna lock this in.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I think both Captain America and Iron Man are going down.
Okay, I can buy that.
I think they're both gone. I think Robert Downey Jr. is still a dynamo. No disrespect to the man. I think that he is aware that he's getting up there, considering that him playing Tony Stark is now either him walking around in a t-shirt or just his face with a CGI overlay over it. Not to mention, it would make sense from a character standpoint with all the shit like Ultron and Civil War. I think that would be a good redemptive arc for him. And at the same time, Chris Evans has pretty much wanted out for a while, but he's just been having fun and making money with it. So I would not be shocked if they killed him off, made Bucky the new Captain America, and Robert Downey Jr. kind of swooshed into a producer role. And then you got like Strange, Spider-Man, and the Guardians kind of taking up the slack.
I can buy that.
Like and then especially if they decide to implement like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four down the line, like they're not going to be hurting for big recognizable characters. But I'm going to lock that in. I think that. Yeah, you know what? I'll go even one step further. I think Groot is going to survive. I think Groot has to survive. I will lock that in as my 3-point triangle of life and death.
My only meta narrative thing is that I think the Guardians are mostly relatively safe, given that they have another movie, and they probably. I would assume that James Gunn and anybody involved in that has some pretty big sway in being like, okay, these are the ones that you can kill off. These are the ones I need.
Yeah, I think James Gunn was brought on as like an executive producer or something like this, just because he's the only one to work with the Guardians, and they make up like half of the headliners in this movie. So I think while the Russos are directing it, I think he was at least like in the room for some of it. But especially because he's made Marvel all that money. But same thing with Jon Favreau, how they would bring him as like a consultant and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Infinity War is coming out. I'm looking forward to it. I wish I was more excited for it, but I'm kind of hoping. I feel like best case scenario, this will be like the whole new beginning for the MCU.
I've
to
been
where-
doing a consistent thing with MCU movies where I come in tempering my expectations down to it'll be all right, and then I end up liking it more than I did, more than I expected.
Yeah.
And that
That's
tends to
the
be
thing.
how I go with these things.
That's the thing. I miss like getting really excited for these and then leaving the theater like breathless, you know?
Yeah.
I'll never like I really loved Civil War. And I really loved Winter Soldier and I really loved the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but those are the only ones since
See,
like the first Avengers. that
I
really,
also
like,
felt that
did
way
anything for
about
me.
Spider-Man: Homecoming, but that was also because
Spider-Man was fine.
that was also
It was
because
up there. I liked
genuinely enjoy the interpretation of Spider-Man as a teenager more than anything else. I love it when he's in high school and doing things with kids, and you really get the sense of who he is as like someone who's too young to be doing what he's doing and is trying his best.
Yeah, Spider-Man: Homecoming was good. I enjoyed it.
And I also just thought it had a very clear, consistent style. Occasionally you get to like the kind of like you start to think back on certain Marvel movies. Like I hate to keep punching at Thor 2, but like Thor 2 where you think back at it and you're like, what was the style of that movie? And you're like, I don't know.
It's like fucking washed out.
I just remember it as kind of like blurry and
Yeah,
and
like kind of blue, kind of gray.
yeah, neutral tones.
Yeah.
Whereas with that movie, it felt like fun and loud, and like it had a specific sense of style to the whole thing, kind of like season 1 Jessica Jones or like Thor Ragnarok, that kind of thing. Just like a very you can kind of explain how this movie feels style wise, where you can't with other ones.
Yeah.
But that's not Infinity War. That's Homecoming.
Infinity War. It's going to be an interesting time. I think. I hope it's not like. I just don't want it to be Age of Ultron. that was like the accident that like never quite heals. Like I could still feel the pins they had to put in after I saw Age of Ultron, where it's like nothing since then has been like anywhere near that disappointing or annoying.
But it's a shadow looming over the rest of it now. That permanently
it's still
averages
there.
out your expectations to. I don't know.
And it's like it's all good now. Joss Whedon's at DC. He can't hurt them anymore. But it's like,
Jesus.
I don't know. But yeah, Infinity War looks tight. So that's about it for this episode of Best Boys. Chris, would you like to plug your stuff once more before we say goodbye?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter at Chris_Costi or at chrismcostello.com if you want to just look at my work. Yeah.
You should. It's good work.
That's really the only stuff that I got going on right now. We'll probably include links at the bottom, and yeah. Check out this guy and all of his cool stuff.
Right.
Mark, where do you put your things?
That's right. I update the blog weekly. New reviews go up on Saturdays when I'm able to get them up on whiteguywithnetflix.blogspot.com. I'm also on Twitter at @TheJurassicMark. I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/JurassicMarkPlays. And I'm on YouTube as well, which... Well, you would know.
Yeah, just
that's where
running
this
the
is.
whole gamut.
So, yeah, no, getting myself out there, man, and I'm looking forward to the summer too, because I'm thinking I'm. It seems like I'm gonna have some more free time this summer. Fingers crossed. And if I do, I'd like to really commit to doing some streaming and some let's playing and stuff. So,
well, I look forward to it, and I hope I'm on it as much as I can be.
Yeah, no, exciting things are in the works, and I'll leave it at that. But I'm Mark, this is Chris, we have been Best Boys, and we'll see you next time.
Delightful. Really delightful. I'm the Globglogabgalab. I love books, and this basement is a true treasure trove. I am the Globglogabgalab, the schwabble-dabble-wabble-gabble-flibber-blabber-blab. I'm full of schwibble-glibber-kind. I am the yeast of thoughts and mind. Schwabble-dabble-glibber-glabber-schwibble-schwab-glab. Dibble-double-shwibble-shabble-glibber-glab-schwab. Schwabble-dabble-glibber-glabber-schwibble-schwab-dab. Dibble-double-shwibble-shabble-glibber-schwab-glab. Oh, splendid. Simply delicious. Oh.